You know, a lot of people don't understand me, and a lot of people say, why does he say the controversial things he says? And the primary objective is to make people think, not to agree with me, to think. I'll say something which might be deemed racist or misogynistic, to make you think, to make you sit there and go, wait, is that even true? No, I disagree with that. Here is why I disagree. Because the Overton window is here. We're only allowed to talk about the decorations on the Christmas tree. I want to talk about the tree. And to push the limits of the Overton window, you have to say the things you're not allowed to say. That's the reason I say the things I say. That's the reason I say them the way I say them. That's the reason I've done the things I do. To push the window over the Overton window, till eventually it gets large enough. We're not talking about decorations, we're talking about whether there should be a tree at all. That's why I'm largely misunderstood.
When I came here, I got so many texts that don't do this, because I am innocent, stupid, 24-year-old in the European Parliament that is associating myself with that you have all this kind of drama around your name. But I was like, fuck them. I want to talk everyone in the world, even people that they killed, even people, I want to understand what they said. Absolutely. And this is the world that I want to live, to hear the perspective of the others. And maybe I'm wrong. A lot of people don't like you in the European
that's a shame.
Union.
That's a shame.
Maybe in the United States, there's a bigger number of people that they like you. We're a bit more, I think, leftist in Europe as a whole.
Which is why you're being destroyed by the American government.
You live in Europe. I know. We are getting destroyed.
I can't leave yet. I can't leave yet, sir. The second thing I want to talk about is gender equality. We can sit here and give off 1,000 examples of how many times men have taken personal damage to do the right thing for society.
Also women.
Also women, name some. Name some. I have to sign for the police quickly, and then I'll answer the rest of that question.
It's good time. For the police?
I'm on house arrest. I'm on house arrest.
Every day?
So, yeah, every day I have to sign, yeah, it's boring.
We sign also in the European Parliament. We get 350 euros every day, we go there.
You know, when Europe talk about AI, it's like when you see a poor man talking about Ferraris. You're just sitting there going, a very interesting point of view. Well, you ain't got any. You ain't got one. So shut up. Elon's made the AI. America and China are in an arms race for AI. Europe doesn't make any AI because Europe doesn't have any companies that does anything important because all the companies are leaving.
But that's why we need to change this, because if we lose the biggest race in the history of humanity, we're fucked.
I have a different appeal I'm going to make to the American military, which has spent its time going to Middle Eastern countries where the local populations hate them. Instead, please invade Europe. Please invade Europe, Trump and Elon. Please invade Europe because the locals want you here. This is actually very interesting, so we're going to go back into gender for a second.
You love going back to the gender.
No, because...
You love...
I like to...
Enough of gender stuff!
Sure. No problem.
Who are you, baby?
Who are you? You're the member of European Parliament, sir. You're the important one. I'm just a kickboxer.
Answer my question, though.
Who am I? Well, I've managed to become a pretty influential figure online. I feel like I've been saying things that everybody has already been thinking for a very long time. I feel like I've said that water is wet in a time where it needed to be said. But I've become a massive inspiration to the masculine youth of the world, which has also painted a target on my back. So to answer that question professionally and compendiously, it's hard. I'm a kickboxer, I'm an influencer, I'm a businessman. I am a political prisoner inside of the beautiful country of Romania. I'm lots of different things. What about you? Because you were a YouTuber and now you're the most transparent politician inside of the European Parliament. So what would you say?
Well, today we're going to talk a lot about politics, about what the metrics is, because I think I see the metrics, I'm from the inside and I see what this, and I'm not sure if this metrics is like something organized. I think it's just bureaucracy. Wouldn't you agree with? It's just basically the system.
Well, that's a really good question because I've had lots of different theories thrown my way. They'd say that it's organized by these shadowy figures hiding in a room somewhere trying to destroy the world. And then some people just blame incompetency. Some people just blame bureaucracy. Some people just blame lots of different interest groups, which are all trying to constantly compete, which of course is human nature. The banks want certain things and the farmers want something else and all these different powerful lobbies pushing against each other. So yeah, what is the matrix? It's a really good question. And I guess the real question is also, because you're a lot deeper into it than I am, how deep really are you? Like how much power do they really have in that room? Is there another room? How does Ursula keep winning when no one likes her? Like what's really going on maybe behind that? I don't know, you know more than me. Is that an illusion? Is democracy real? Is the Matrix something else behind that? The reason I would say, however, is that it is organized and it's not bureaucracy, is because there are some subjects which you simply cannot seem to vote your way out of. It doesn't matter what team you vote for, you cannot avoid going to war with Russia. Everybody is saying give money to Ukraine. Everyone in the population, every European doesn't want this. Everyone's saying no. But no matter which politician you get in there, all they talk about is how they must send money to Ukraine to fight Russia. Unlimited and unchecked migration is another one. Most Europeans want their country to stay like the country they remember. They want people around them to think like them, look like them, speak the same language. That's what they want. But it doesn't matter who you vote for. You can't seem to get it. There are a few subjects which are just beyond democracy, which would, I guess, beg the conclusion that it is being planned. It is being orchestrated by somebody.
Immigration is one thing that we are going to talk later about. But so you are saying that there is some people behind orchestrating this. Is this kind of something billionaires, George Soros, and all these types of people? I don't know, like that these people are saying.
Well, it's interesting because money is the simple answer. It's easy to say that they're doing these things for money. But at a certain level, and I can even talk from personal experience, and I'm really not that rich, money doesn't become interesting anymore. What becomes interesting? Power.
Well, I'm going to talk about exactly how rich you are later as well.
Well, we can give a number. But you're not interested in money, you're interested in power. What you want is people to do as you say, which is why you want money in the first place. So you can hire staff or influence elections, whatever it is. Money is power. When you get to a certain level, you're no longer interested in the money because the money is something you print. It's something you make up. It's imaginary. The money's not real, as we all know. So from there, you're primarily concerned with power over and control over people. So then you'd have to ask yourself, and if you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, and I try not to be, I try to be very logical about these things. Who wants absolute control over the European populace? Well, the leaders of Europe, as well as the enemies of Europe. There's lots of people who would want absolute control over the European populace.
So you are talking about incentives now. Who has incentive to control?
Yeah, who has incentive and who has influence. So who can do these things? Who can influence the politicians to always, constantly, no matter what, dedicate themselves to self-destruction, dedicate their economies to self-destruction, to go to war with Russia, despite the fact their constituents don't want that? Who has that kind of power? Well, you'd argue, if I had to guess, it would be banking interests, it'd be BlackRock, it'd be the people who want all the Ukrainian land, it'd be the American deep state who make all the weapons. I mean, there's very few powers on the planet influential enough to say to every single politician, no, we're going to war. It doesn't matter what people say, doesn't matter who dies, doesn't matter how expensive energy gets, we're going to war and Putin is bad and he has absolutely no reason to do what he's doing. He's a madman who must be stopped and he's going to come and he's going to take Poland and Romania. He's coming for Cyprus too, probably, Black Sea Fleet. He's coming for everyone. This garbage, and it is garbage, a lie. There's only a few entities on the planet powerful enough to do that. And those entities are, of course, very rich. But I don't think it's primarily just about making more money for them. It's about getting more influence and more power. If BlackRock is trying to push Europe into war with Ukraine so we can get hold of Ukrainian land.
How do they get more influence, though, when they do that?
Well, that's a really good power. Okay, so again, primarily through the media. I mean, things have changed since Elon bought X. Things have changed with your videos. I'm genuinely a huge fan of yours. The things you are doing to show transparency inside the European Parliament are life-changing. Sir, truthfully, you're a hero. Before you, there's not a single person on the planet who even cared about European Parliament. And I'm talking about me, someone who's interested in politics. If they said, have you seen European Parliament today? I'd be like, no, bunch of clowns. Nobody was even interested because we knew it was a joke. The average young person has no interest in this garbage, which allows them to get away with whatever they want to get away with, if they had any control at all, which perhaps you know more than me. But if BlackRock want to push us into war in Ukraine so they can have control over the fertile lands of Ukraine, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is a well-known fact. BlackRock will be behind lending money to Ukraine. It's a loan, so that if they win, Ukraine has to repay the loan. And of course, Ukraine has no money, it doesn't even have a currency. So they repay it with assets. What's the only asset they have? Fertile land. Is BlackRock trying to do that to make more money? Perhaps, but they have a lot of money. Primarily, they're doing that, I believe, to have more control, more power. If they own all the fertile lands in Ukraine, they're going to have control over the next politician who's in charge of Ukraine, no matter who he is. And that's what they want. The whole world has only ever been a battle for power and influence. So how does BlackRock, how do these very deeply entrenched,
but
how do they control politicians? I'll answer.
How they are going to repay, let's say in a hypothetical war, Ukraine, their debt that they own to these countries with land?
What else are they going to repay it with? Taxes? They don't even have an economy.
I don't know. It's an interesting...
Yeah, they're going to repay it with land. They're going to repay it with their natural resources. And they're going to repay it, most importantly, with their compliance. They're going to repay it with the same way the mafia makes you obey. You owe us money, so you better do this. It doesn't matter if Zelensky lives or dies. The next person who comes in owes a lot of money to very powerful interests, and you better obey. So this is what I was saying earlier, how about it's not about money. They don't care about getting a return on their investment. They want the influence. And it's the same.
But as a byproduct, they get even more return on their investment.
Of course they do. Of course, absolutely. But primarily...
With more power as well and influence.
Absolutely. But primarily in their mind, they're not chasing money. They're not saying, oh, I'll give them $100 billion, I'll get $105 billion back. They'll say, I'll give them $100 billion, I'll have influence, I'll have control, I'll get them to do whatever I want, and I can rape them for money later. They have money. I'm talking from a person who doesn't have anywhere near $100 billion. I don't care about money. It's like, how much money to make them obey? Sure, done. Clean the house. That's all humans do. You hire a cleaner, you hire a taxi driver. What do you pay him for? Here's money, drive me where I want to go. Everyone buys influence. So they do at a higher level. You asked, how do these people influence politicians? Well, before Twitter, before X, before social media, before people like you, primarily they do it through the media. You're a politician, you want to have a job. If you piss off the powers that be, the media will just come out and slander you to the end of earth like they've done to me. They'll say every day that you're a bad person, every day that you're morally corrupt, every day you've done bad things. They'll then at the same time funnel endless money in our world, to them a fraction of a penny, into your competitor's party. And then they'll say to everyone around you, if you support this guy, you're going to get wrecked like them. He's a sinking ship because he isn't obeying. If you support him, your campaign's going down the drain too. Before you know it, you have people who want to keep their jobs, who realize, this game's rigged. And that's how they buy the power and influence, buy the media. The media machine is nothing more than a propaganda arm for the deep state. All they do is push the narratives they want pushed. The media wasn't allowed to say COVID's not scary. It was instructed to scare the populace. That was the whole point of it, so that everybody complied. It's the same now, trying to scare everyone into believing that Putin's going to march into fucking Berlin. It is garbage, but that is their primary job. So that's how they control the politicians, via influence, the media, and financing. And that's why you can't seem to find a politician who will go against these things no matter what their population says. Politicians aren't working for their constituents anymore. They're working for the people who control them. They're working for the people who allow them to live or die. You look at a politician and say, why isn't he doing what his people wants? Because he doesn't work for his people. He works for the person who puts money in his bank. And it's not the people. And that's the unfortunate reality. And
it's changing this, and we're going to talk about this as well later. But I want to tell you kind of my theory on this.
I'd love to hear
from the inside. Maybe you are looking deeper than I am looking from the inside to have this answer. But my answer is never underestimate human stupidity. So in a way, it's like 70,000 bureaucrats.
Yep.
In Europe there that they are working in this institution. The system is so confusing, so above everyone. So they built something that it's incapable to run in a way without this, without the parties kind of having influence the parties from inside. So it's like the people, actually, I'm a European lover. I think Europe is a net positive.
I love Europe.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because you seem a Europe skeptic from what you are saying, a lot of the stuff that you are saying. But I think as a whole, if you put it on the scale, the stuff that is the benefits for Europe is a lot bigger. But anyways, so a lot of the times from this, these people are like very good people. Like you talk to them, they're good. But yeah, what you said, that I have a lot of like even. The president of the European Parliament, when you talk with her, Roberta Metsola, and a lot of other high ranks, they're so cool people, but they're just playing the game to be in their position.
Of course.
So they are very smart. They're super smart. They sit down. They're like you and me, chill. They're having jokes, making fun, and all this stuff. Yeah. But when there's time for them to do the right thing, that the institution assumes the right thing, they are doing it. So it's not. But kind of the culture is like this, and also what you are saying about the democratic deficit. Like a lot of the time, most of the time, we are not voting based on the voters of the European Union. Most of the times we go against it. And I proved this like a lot of times with the polls that I'm doing. 85% of
want something and we vote against it.
85% of the people hate Ursula von der Leyen. They don't want her to get re-elected. Yep. And she ended up getting the majority. And why does it possible is because everything is happening behind closed doors.
Doesn't that argue my point though about influence? Doesn't that lend to my point about how there's shadow deals and shadow figures which are in charge of things and influence? And you just said people are cool in person, but they're trying to keep their jobs and they go along with the institution. Doesn't that just say what I said about how democracy is all garbage?
But I'm not sure if there is something behind. This is what I'm arguing. I'm just arguing that it's just how it is so complicated for them to keep their job. So I'm not sure if there is a higher power from behind influencing everything.
I understand what you're saying. And as a professional...
I'm just seeing from the inside. This is what I saw.
As a professional, I have to sit here and cede credence to your insight. You know more than me. You've been in the European Parliament. It would be unprofessional for me to sit here and say you're wrong because you know more than me. However, I would argue, from a hypothetical point of view, if I wanted to give the illusion of power to the people, and I wanted to build a democratic system which couldn't truly go against the interests of the deep state and the matrix, but to make people believe they had power, would I make a simple and transparent system? Or would I make a large bureaucracy, which is nearly impossible to trace and track and understand? And I would be able to hide behind the idea of stupidity. It's stupid and it's big and there's lots of people and no one really knows and there's so many. Oops, we all vote for exactly what the matrix wants. Oops, we all vote for exactly what the matrix wants. It's because it's big and complicated. To me, and I'm talking as a professional, if I was in charge of setting up that illusion, that's exactly what I would do. I would try and make people believe in the idea of stupidity. And I know it's actually a very comforting thought. Oh, they're not evil. They're just stupid. Well, if you're sitting in a trench in Ukraine as Russian shells drop down on your head, does that make you feel better? If you don't go and see your grandma die because it's against the law because of COVID, do you feel better? Oh, they're just stupid. They're not evil. Does that make you feel better? If a migrant arrives on a boat undocumented and stabs your little girl and kills her because they don't close the borders, do you feel better that they're just stupid instead of evil? It doesn't matter if they're stupid or not. They're acting with evil intention. Even if that was true, which I don't even believe it is true. But I don't believe they're stupid. I believe this was set up on purpose so that they can deliberately convince the population. Because I hear it all the time. In Romania, they say all the time, we say we have a beautiful country, but our politicians are stupid. Oh, they're so stupid, are they? They're so stupid to get hundreds of billions of dollars from the EU and be above prosecution and do whatever they want without you doing shit about it and selling you out. And they're the stupid one while you sit here working a job paying your taxes. They're stupid. No, they're not stupid. I don't believe this stupid garbage. I believe the system is set up on purpose to convince the population that they're just stupid and it's big and it's bureaucracy. When in fact, it's a deliberate smokescreen. And it's done that way because if they wanted to have control over European Parliament, which was genuinely democratic and genuinely transparent, they couldn't.
Well, I only talk what I see.
I respect it.
So
I respect it, sir. I respect it. And so do I. I respect it. And I know you know more things than I do. But I'm just trying to sit here and discussing power dynamics. I'm just sitting here talking how it would be very easy for them to control such a large bureaucratic system.
But let's dive a bit inside because a lot of the people, they don't understand exactly how the European Union functions. And I did, and it took me like 5 months. And I was living inside, asking questions 24/7 to kind of understand how it's working. So it's like so complicated. And we're going to come into, so it's the European Commission, is Ursula von der Leyen. And there is 26 ministers that each country promote. And this is kind of the heads, like the ministers of Europe. And this is the European Parliament, which are the elected people, 720 MEPs, members of the European Parliament, and it's the Council. It's like all the ministers of all the countries in Europe. And these three things, they need to decide on, like, everything comes from above, from the European Commission, if there's going to be a proposal about the rule. And we come in the European Parliament to change the bit, and like with the Council to change the bit, and we need to agree both. And it takes years and years and years.
So quick question. I don't want to interrupt you because I want to understand this myself. But then couldn't they give the illusion of choice? Couldn't they, by omitting certain options and omitting certain paths, ensure that you always go down the same path anyway? For example, you just said the European Commission gives proposals to the other two branches of European government. So the European Commission could give an option to give 100 billion to Ukraine or 50 billion to Ukraine. So if you're anti-Ukraine war, you'll vote for less money to Ukraine, and then you give the illusion of choice. But of course, Ukraine still gets money and the war's still going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. It supports your argument, what you were saying before. Okay, let's go to continue a bit the education about the
I'm very interested, sir. I'm very interested.
And these are the three things. And also there is a fourth thing, all the presidents together deciding, the 27 presidents, deciding the big stuff, broad scale. But also is the European Commission, which is the executive power to execute all this stuff. So this is a system that is so complicated that even if you need to be the president of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, and also is like the High Commissioner we call here, and also it's kind of impossible to be in that position. Because how you get it, like not a normal European citizen can get inside that position. Like Elon Musk was saying in a tweet, like Fidias for president of the EU, but it's kind of impossible to be in that position.
So how does she end up there?
So that's the question. That's the question. So how she ends up there is a deal behind closed door, behind the biggest parties in the European Parliament, which they propose here, kind of. So in the European Parliament, we have the groups with the right, the left, and all this stuff. And the people who have the majorities, the Socialists and Democrats and the APP, when they decide together about something, so they sit down, they say, I will give you this, you give me this, behind closed doors. And then they decide, okay, and we're going to put your one here, my one here, your one here. No transparency. And they decide kind of who will rule. And then it comes to the parliament, even if I vote against, they decided before, so behind closed doors, so it's pre-decided because it's the two biggest parties. And this is how we get to the president of the European Parliament. It's the least transparent
democratic process ever.
Yes.
Which goes into my argument for influence. You know, I grew up in a rough neighborhood, let's say. And I always was pretty good at reading people, I believe. So I don't understand the European process the way you do. But the reason I said, and it takes gall for me to do this, for me to sit down with a member of European Parliament, and when I've never been in European Parliament, and tell you that your process isn't democratic, that takes a lot of balls to do because you know better than me. So where would I even get this kind of inkling from? You know, there's been times in my life where I've sat in a room with a man and I just knew he was going to try and hurt me. He didn't do anything, I just knew it. I could see it on him. And when I see Ursula, when I see the few members of European Parliament brave enough to tell her that she's hated, when I see people screaming that she refuses to do what the population wants, and I see the smug look on her face, she knows it doesn't matter. She knows it doesn't matter what the people want. She knows it doesn't matter how many people are mad at her. She knows it doesn't matter because there's something else going on. And the parliament have fuck all to do with it, and the population have nothing to do with it, and everyone can scream. And the look on her face is like looking at a screaming toddler, upset that they can't have a little piece of candy, because she knows the deal's already been done. That's the truth of the European Parliament. And I knew that before I spoke to you by looking at her face. Look at her when people say, why are you doing this? You're destroying Europe. She feels very calm. She doesn't care. She's working for someone else, and she ain't working for the European people. That's a fact.
No, but it's interesting because I met have a lot of friends that they spoke with her a lot of the times, and they're friends with her. So she's, if she's a puppet, let's say, if she is, which But people told me that she actually has some agenda, like about gender equality,
Great.
about the renewables energies and all this stuff.
Oh, great.
Too.
So she has.
So she has some personal belief, and we see there kind of in a policy of Europe. I don't know if that's her actual. If she has influence over other people, and this is how she formed her agenda, but this is what the stuff that she's passionate about.
Well, I have two arguments, two responses to that. Ursula has agendas. Firstly, the two agendas you just said are destroying Europe. The gender equality push and DEI and getting rid of our energy efficiency is destroying Europe. So her agendas are negative. That's the first answer. Because it doesn't, I mean, getting rid of nuclear power and getting rid of Russian gas is bad.
I need to ask you, first of all, what is your opinion, a bit, because it's a very controversial, what do you mean about gender equality?
Because I don't think,
and like your opinion about this.
Of course, I think that.
But a lot of the people don't like. A lot of people don't like you in the European
that's a shame.
Union.
That's a shame.
Maybe in the United States, it's a bigger number of people that they like you because you are more on the core values of the United States. We're a bit more, I think, leftist somehow in Europe as a whole.
Which is why you're losing to America, by the way.
And something.
Which is why you're being destroyed by the American government, by the way. You do understand that Europe is a scapegoat.
You live
for the
in
American.
Europe.
I know.
We are getting destroyed.
I can't
Don't
leave
put
yet.
yourself.
I can't leave yet, sir. But I'm telling you, the European continent is being decimated by its ally, America, because they understand that Europe's now self-immolating. And it's self-immolating by these leftist policies. So let's talk about renewable energy first. They got rid of Russian gas. They refused to build nuclear. They want to build all these solar panels in some fantastic dream. Volkswagen shuts down. German economy shrinking. They can't afford cheap energy. You can't do anything without energy. If I don't eat and I can't move my hands, how do I podcast? How do I do anything? How do I pay my bills? You can't do anything without energy. And Europe is currently in an energy crisis. America doesn't have that problem. The Middle East doesn't have that problem. China doesn't have that problem. Only Europe has that problem. And they're going to sit there talking about net zero garbage while India emits endless emissions daily, not caring. You're simply going to lose. So what Ursula wants to do, and maybe her personal views, they are net negative for Europe. Then we'll talk about gender equality.
No, let's explain to the people a bit more. So Ursula von der Leyen and a lot of the policies of Europe is to become green in Europe by 2050, to have zero net. But this, because they forced it too quickly, everyone in the European Parliament, they say that the Green Deal, which was the big thing, it was hurting our businesses. Now it's like common sense, and everyone agrees this.
So we're going broke to try and push for this net zero while the rest of the world doesn't.
Not everyone.
While the rest of the world doesn't. And then you have to ask yourself, do they care about net zero or do they care about control? Why are they trying to push net zero? Do they think that if they increase your taxes, the sun stops being hot? Is that what they believe? If they think they just bankrupt all the large industry, that the trees will grow bigger? Or are they trying to control everybody? All these things are Trojan horsed. They come along with very fancy, very clever language, and they Trojan horse it. Everyone loves the environment. Do you like trees? Yeah, I like trees.
Yes.
Okay, your taxes have gone up. Whoa.
Yes.
Why have my taxes gone up? Because I like trees. Now, if you're against the Green Deal, then you don't like the environment. You want the fish to die. When of course you don't. You just don't trust these politicians.
You are right about this. Can I give you an example from our recent vote that we did? And
Please do.
And we can get into the also in gender equality and all this stuff in the current state of Europe. But recently, like 4 days ago, we voted on one thing in the European Parliament. And by the way, guys, there is a lot of things that there is good about the European Union, but because I love the European Union, I want to say the bad things to improve the European Union. So I'm not saying from a bad place. So it was recently we voted about so this is how they do, exactly how you said. So we voted on one thing, so they found 3 people that were kind of harassed in Crimea.
Yeah.
And they went to jail for the wrong reasons and all this stuff. And
why don't they do Romania jail for the wrong reasons? Hey, Ursula!
Yes, exactly this. So they found these 3 people, they put a face to them, and these 3 people, we want freedom of them and all this stuff, but in the same text is against Russia.
Yep.
So they make you influence. So they find the 3 examples. They have 0 examples about what mistakes Zelensky did and oppressed some people in Ukraine. So they put a face to it, and it's like of course I want these people to be okay, and I don't want this to happen to them. What do I vote? But do I vote also for? And this is kind of how they vote for their things. It's interesting. So this was the resolution that we did.
That's right. They Trojan horse it. So if you vote against it, you don't care about the 3 people. But if you vote for it, then you're going to do some insanity to Russia. And they do this with the climate change. Do you care about the trees? Do you care about the fish? Well, yes, I do. Okay, give up your car, don't leave your house, and pay more taxes. What? And that doesn't even fix the initial problem in the first place. That's why all of these policies are Trojan horsed. When you said Ursula has her personal views and one of them is climate change and net zero, to me, that's a negative. And I have to go back a couple times because I said earlier that I would answer that question 2 ways. And let me give the other answer to that so we can continue down the conversation. I said there's 2 ways to that. When I said that Ursula is controlled, and I could tell by her face, and my Europol warrant is probably coming soon, everybody, because I've had a few of them. But when I said she's probably controlled, and you said she has her personal views and those things, I can answer it 2 ways. The other way I can answer it is she can have her personal views on the unimportant subjects. This is the whole big point of the big bureaucracy, like I said earlier. There are certain subjects that they can't disagree with. So behind you is a Christmas tree. She can have her opinions on how we decorate the Christmas tree.
But I will argue
but she can't
the same thing with Donald Trump, my friend.
We'll talk about that in a second. But Ursula, in her position, is allowed to have her opinions on how we decorate the Christmas tree. But she's not allowed to have an opinion if there's a tree at all. The tree will be there. And that cannot bend and cannot break, and she cannot talk against it. We will go to war. How we do it, maybe she's allowed to talk about the details. But the basis idea must remain. This is important. The second thing I want to talk about, because we have a few tangents to go off on, is gender equality. And I'm largely misunderstood in the world because I love all people. Male, female, everybody. However, I do stand up for men's rights because I think men are massively underrepresented. I know that men suffer more depression. Men suffer more suicide. Men are constantly accused of crimes they have not done. Men die in war.
You are one of the few people that they identified and labeled this problem.
I'm one of the only people who cares.
Before I was not man, boys have, and I was actually, to your defense that you identified this, was actually, yes, there is a lot of 17, 18-year-old boys that they like a girl, that they don't know, they are suffering, they are in a friend group, that they are getting bullied in a way, drawn into situations. It's like they are, in a way, very discriminated in society, and 100%. Nobody looks after them. So that's why I think you are very successful, and also Jordan Peterson is very successful because you are talking to these hearts of these young people.
Well, nobody cares about men. So because I talk about men, they say I'm a misogynist, and I'm truly not. We're going to talk about gender equality in a second, but just to go into that point, there is no better period of history or geographical location on the planet to be a woman than Europe today. Where is it better, and when was it better? Ever. And we constantly complain about women's issues. They've got it the best they've ever had it. Men have it the worst they've ever had it. Every single...
What do you mean the worst they've ever had?
Well...
I will argue also that the world is improving. We are all happier and all this stuff.
That's true, but if you look at the disparity between
what
men...
is this word? I don't know.
You look at the difference between men and women.
Oh, they're different.
You look at the difference between men and women, men are starting to lose in nearly every single metric. Less of them go to school. Less of them are deemed successful, less of them are happy, less of them keep themselves alive, less of them stay out of jail, less of them stay law-abiding, less men are losing, and women are getting better. All I'm saying is don't forget about the men too. Another reason I'm called a misogynist is because I'm actually a realist. And I don't believe that all individuals on the planet are equal. I believe there are some men who are taller than me, and there are some men who are shorter than me, and there are some men who are stronger than me. Very few, but there are some. And there are some men who are weaker than me. We are not all equals. So when the government comes along and says gender equality, we're going to force equality of outcome via legislation, I'm against that. Not because I don't like women, but because the government has never managed to do anything effectively ever. They've screwed up everything they've ever done, ever. And when they come along and say, no, we're not allowed to look at people for their individual merits. We're going to force someone through because of their gender, or force someone through because of their skin color, or force someone through because of their sexual orientation. You are no longer optimizing for competency. Europe is already failing. Europe is already going broke. We're Euro poors. America is destroying us because America still believes in the winner to a degree. Thank God Kamala, Satan in a wig, didn't win, or her and Ursula be sitting around putting us all in jail.
Come on, man.
No, it's true. It's true. So it's very important. It's very important we understand these things. When we talk about gender equality, this is the ultimate Trojan horse. The same as we just discussed with climate change. Oh, you don't believe in gender equality? Are you a bad person? Do you want women dead? No, I believe in there is a position and I want to find the best person for the job. Man, woman, midget, giant, black, white, Chinese. I want the best guy in a meritocracy. Gender equality legislation prevents that. We have a position, the best person for the job is a straight white male. We have too many straight white males. Let's get someone who's not as good at the job, but satisfies the gender equality legislation. You cannot survive in the ultra-competitive world unless you optimize for competency in all things. That's why I'm against gender equality legislation. Not because I hate women.
People are very, you are triggering people, I'm sure.
I'm telling the truth.
Now, but let's give an example of this. This is happening in the European Union, but in a different way. I think also with the women, but they force kind of, because there is some countries that they are not represented in the as staff in the European Parliament, like I think the Balkans and some of these countries. So they're saying, okay, like 10% of this must be from these countries. Okay. So it's the same exact thing that you're saying. So they're just inclusive to this because they're kind of lower, I don't know, their standards and all this stuff. They don't get these types of jobs. And I will agree with you because when you are putting people to come from these countries that wouldn't get the job otherwise if you didn't put this threshold, you are also stopping other people that they are competent and that will get the job anyway. So you are not filtering for the best. You are filtering for...
You're filtering to tick boxes in a fantasy land.
But I'm just saying, this is a better example for everyone to understand.
So when I say I'm against climate change, it's not because I hate fish. It's because I don't want my taxes to raise. I don't want to be locked in my house. And when I say I'm against gender equality legislation, it's not because I hate women. It's because I want to have a meritocracy where we're actually hiring for competence as opposed to just hiring randoms because they tick a box. And the most scary thing about it is this. It's not even just men and women. This hierarchy of ultra representation gets deeper and deeper and deeper. If it was just we need X amount of men, X amount of women, it would be bad. But it gets even worse when you say we need X amount of men, X amount of women, X amount of gays, X amount of trans, X amount of black, X amount of Chinese, X amount of white. There's no one left to choose to do the job who can actually do the job. Before you know it, you're on the phone saying, do we have any half black, half Chinese transsexuals who want to be the Minister of Finance? Anybody for the European Union? Ursula wants a friend. And you're going to get some jackass. And this jackass is going to be dumb. They're not going to have any experience. And they're going to be afraid. And they'll be easy to influence. And they'll be sitting in these rooms at the back, scared.
I have one question for you. Would you agree that, okay, there is less represented in powerful positions than women? We need to do something about it to educate them, to pay specific attention. Maybe there is something wrong with the society to like encourage them, educate them, find different stuff to promote. Would you agree with this? Or let kind of free market, they will...
I would absolutely disagree. And I say we let the free market because you know what? We let the free market operate in its entirety in reverse. When women are outperforming men in certain scenarios, when women are outperforming men, and we can name things which perhaps are not as consequential as being a European member of parliament, but women do better than men at modeling, for example, off the top of my head. Nobody's sitting there going, you know what, there's too many beautiful girls, we need to, now they're trying to use the ugly girls, but no one's coming along saying they are. Now they're not coming along and saying, oh, we have to put men in. There has to be equal 50-50 in modeling. There has to be equal 50-50 in sugar babies. You know all those beautiful girls on the yachts who don't work and they have millions and millions of dollars from the Ukrainians after the European Union gave it to them? You know all those girls sitting around in Cartier? Whoa, why are there not enough male sugar babies? Nobody cares when women win. Nobody cares when women win. As soon as men start to win, there's a mental breakdown. Oh, there can't be men. Men represent women's rights also. A man can do just a good job sticking up for and representing the entire population. This idea that just because a man's in power, he doesn't give a shit about women, that's a lie. In fact, I would argue that good men are very protective over women. Men protect women. We are evolutionarily designed to protect women. I protect every single woman in my life. My daughters, which I have a lot of, the women who they come from.
But you don't say how many.
I never say how many. I protect every woman around me. And I do that via financially providing for them, provision, making sure they're physically safe. I isolate them from dangerous scenarios. I protect women. Men have evolved to protect women. Women have not evolved to protect men. If you put a woman in a position of power, does she care about protecting men? I don't think so. Which would argue why we have such a feminine-led European parliament. Because we have female ideals. It's not even about the idea that they're a man or a woman. We live in a matriarchy now. It's all feminine ideals, which is why men are suffering so heavily. Which is why when I say things like men matter too, I somehow offend the world. I don't think we need to come along with something as important as the European Commission and force certain people into certain jobs based on the gender, the skin color, the sexual orientation. It should be optimized primarily for competency. And here's the interesting thing. If we optimize primarily for competency and only men win, then only men should be there. What's the problem? I mean, if women are just as good as men, then we wouldn't need to give them gender equality laws. We wouldn't need to give them these DEI laws. If you're going to tell me, Andrew, women are underrepresented because we've optimized for competency to have the best possible continent and have the most competent leaders on the planet and only men win. So we need to get rid of half of those competent people and put in someone less competent. Am I supposed to agree with that? Doesn't even make sense. If we optimize for competency, only men win, then only men should be there. Fine. Just like when I optimize for competency with the people who take care of my children. If I go to a nursery to give my 4-year-old daughter, they're all women, and I feel happy. If I go to a nursery and I see a bunch of men that look like me, I ain't leaving her there. Why would I leave my little girl with 10 full-grown men? That's weird. It's not normal. So we all optimize for competency in our everyday lives. Of course we do. You go through life and you try and find the person who you believe will do the job the best. So imagine there was a nursery where you had to leave your 4-year-old girl with men. Would you feel comfortable doing that? Gender equality laws. Would you feel comfortable doing that?
I think so.
Oh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. If I turned up with my 4-year-old girl and there's 10 big men in there and they're like, sorry, gender equality laws, there's too many women looking after kids. Give her to us, bro. I'll be like, what? No. So even itself, even the idea of gender equality laws, even the idea of forcing representation of women by putting women in positions of power where they cannot meet a basic competency test proves that it shouldn't exist at all. Men are good at certain things. Women are good at certain things. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm saying we're different.
But Trump is also just organizing the 3, I will argue, in the United States, like Ursula is doing in Europe. Would you disagree? Maybe I'm talking about his previous mandate. Maybe something will change now that we have Elon inside and all these different kind of people. I don't know. Will you disagree with this?
I think that Trump is genuinely different from a political standpoint. I think that Trump is genuinely, actually different and America first. And I think that the rest of the world's going to have to get in line. And I also believe that Europe is going to suffer greatly at the hands of Trump unless they get in line. Because America first means America first. It doesn't mean Europe and America first. It doesn't mean the Matrix first. The Matrix is the Western hemisphere. The Matrix is the Western world. And it's actually kind of interesting when you analyze the Matrix and you analyze these things because us in the West think we're the only people. But truthfully, we're actually a very small percentage. We talk about America, Europe. We're the best, Australia. But there's Africa and South America and China. We're a fraction.
800 million, 900 million, there is 8 billion.
8 billion. We're a tiny fraction of the world, truthfully.
But we control the culture a little bit.
We control the culture, that's right. That's right. But now Trump's come along and he has no interest in this Western Hemisphere NATO garbage. He wants America to win.
We can talk about NATO garbage.
Yeah,
why you think?
He wants America to win. So if Europe doesn't get in line, Europe can suffer along with Latin America, along with Africa, and along with Russia. He doesn't care. That's why America's going to win. If you're truly America first, you're going to sit there and say, okay, there's no light without dark. We will win. You cannot win unless someone else loses. To a degree. This whole idea of perfect polarity, 50-50, DEI, gender equality garbage that Ursula's pulling out her ass is bullshit. Someone has to win. And someone else is going to be unhappy with that scenario. For America to win, other countries are going to have to pay to a degree of price.
Because
and he's going to make.
Talking about limited power that you are sharing.
He's going to make Europe.
You have limited. Why everyone explain why for you to win, someone needs to lose.
Because there's no such thing as equality on the planet. There's just no such thing.
We cannot make the pie bigger in a way? I don't know.
No, because no matter how big you make the pie, no matter how you split the pie, depending on how closely you measure, you find the inadequacies and inefficiencies and inequities in all things, which is why I said earlier about this DEI and this gender equality, men, women and gay, men, women and gay and trans, men, women and gay and trans and black, men, women and gay and trans and black and Chinese, that it goes big deep. We have a pie, we split it 50-50, half and half, we give it to you, but then you measure it and you weigh it. There's 1 gram difference. Okay, you fix that gram, then you weigh it again. Not 1 gram. Your spoon is I measured it with a laser and your spoon is bigger than mine. After I've analyzed it with a laser, your spoon is 0.004% bigger. We need to fix this. Where's the legislation? Ursula, can we fix this? It's garbage. There's no such thing as equality. Someone wins, someone loses in all scenarios on the planet. That's how it goes. If you're America first, all you care about is winning. So there's other countries that are going to have to pay the price for America's winning. That's how it's going to go. And Europe is now going to pay the price for America's winning, along with Africa and Latin America and Russia and China, because Trump has no interest in talking to these psycho bureaucrats in Europe, which have lost their minds and are more interested in putting transsexuals in positions of power than fixing the fact that electricity is running out. Why are we talking about this dumb shit when VW is closing down? VW's existed for 100 years. Do you know how many families around the VW plant survive on the Volkswagen plant? The German government, Schultz, whatever his name is, nobody is even holding him accountable. They sold all their Bitcoin at $50,000 like last month. It's now doubled. There's no inquiry. No one's standing up and asking him why. Nobody's asking who did it. There's no accountability. Nobody's asking where all the money went. They just did a stupid decision, destroyed the German economy, and no one gives a shit. You know what's interesting? When the VW plant started closing down, me, as a perspicacious individual who seems to love making a bunch of money, I sat there and thought, I bet there's a lot of families around the VW plant who are now going to try and sell their house because they exist for VW. They've always existed for VW. Their pension is VW. Their wage is VW. Now that's gone. They don't want the house. So I found all the houses near the VW plant. I started doing a little map of them. Going, I bet these houses will come up cheap. I looked about 2 weeks afterwards and the number of houses for sale had tripled. Everyone's just trying to sell their house. The prices are going down. They can't even sell them. They probably can't even pay off the mortgage if they do sell it. They're all going bankrupt. All these houses are now going for free around the VW plant. Nobody wants them. And nobody's even sitting there going, this is because we stopped taking Russian gas and won't build nuclear because we want to build windmills. And nobody gives a shit. And when you talk about these things, they sit there and go, yeah, that is on the agenda. But first, we don't have enough transsexuals in parliament. This is clown world. This is bullshit.
I agree that this is a fog to the real
It's a fog. So this is it. This is the fog. You can't argue about whether there's a Christmas tree. You can only argue about the color of the ribbon. And the color of the ribbon is the endless fog bullshit they throw our way. Can men have babies? Can men go in women's toilets? And they just throw stupid, unimportant things. The number of times, and I don't know, but you can confirm this with me, that you must have sat in parliament and discussed something which had nothing to do with the baseline of reality. You're just sitting there going, what is this? They are wasting your time to obfuscate and to hide, to be opaque. We're going to have a big meeting and we're going to talk about trannies, and we're going to talk about gender equality, and we're going to talk about windmills. In the meantime, they're just funneling money to Ukraine, funneling money to Ukraine, funneling money to Ukraine. And you can't even talk about that. We only have 10 minutes to talk about that at the end. It's a scam.
It's interesting, and later I will tell you, I ask a lot of the members of the European Parliament here, everyone, what did you achieve? You've been here 20 years. What did you achieve? Yeah. And I will tell you the answer later.
They achieved a paycheck.
But
they achieved a pension.
I want to, so guys, maybe I'm wrong in what I'm going to be saying. Sometimes I'm saying stuff that are bullshit. Forgive me if I am. But I will argue that United States foreign policy is a lot of the time. For example, now Trump got in office with saying that he will end the war in Ukraine. But he will keep funding probably Netanyahu and Israel in this. And I will argue that this is the power over the Israel lobby in United States, because who controls you is who paid for you in a way.
Agreed.
So you are saying that the tree, he can organize the tree, he can organize some of the tree as well, the president in the United States. And I will argue also it's against America first, to give all this money and to make everyone in the Middle East against you and all this
100%.
Stuff. So you agree with me?
100%. You are totally right. The American foreign policy is disgusting.
So
I agree with you.
Also, Trump can organize some of the parts of the tree.
But Trump, I believe, and I might be wrong, we're going to see, I believe Trump will stop the war between Israel and Gaza. I believe he will. I hope he does. I do agree with you that the actions In fact, you didn't say this, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. However, I will say the actions of Israel have been genocidal and disgusting. I do agree that the Israel...
I agree. It's a
genocide.
You cannot say it's not when 16,000 kids
It's disgusting.
Are killed.
It's disgusting. It's
And
a genocide.
people are making videos about when I'm saying it's a genocide, and it's like they're saying, "Oh, you cannot use the word genocide in this term. This is the playbook." Bro, they died 16,000 kids under 18 years old. What do you mean? So,
100%. I have to sign for the police quickly, and then I'll answer the rest of that question.
It's good for the police.
I'm on house arrest. I'm on house arrest.
Every day?
So, yeah, every day I have to sign. Yeah, it's boring.
We sign also in the European Parliament. We get 350 euros every day we go there.
No, it's absolutely a genocide. And Trump has promised he's going to stop the war. Whether he will or not is to be seen. However, I believe he has a better chance at stopping the war than Kamala does. Trump at least has a chainsaw. It's a big tree. But Trump, Elon, Vivek, JD Vance, they have a chainsaw to attack this tree, and they're ideologically prepared to suffer to attack the tree. The most interesting thing is the tree fights back. This is what people don't understand.
But you know
the tree fights
I have
back.
a problem with them. They're never mentioning it. They never mention their agenda on this topic. So they avoid. They're saying we need to, let's start with Oktoberfest.
Oh, of course, yeah. Of course. They don't talk about the fact that Israel's been committing a genocide for a very long time, and now the world's just awake to it. I'm totally ideologically aligned with you. My point is, and I know you're right, and we can go into the Jewish control of America, and that's the tree. That's the deep state. I like to believe that now, for the first time, we have people who are ideologically prepared to fight against the tree. When you come at the tree with a chainsaw, it fights back. This tree is not idle. This is actually very interesting, so I'm going to go back into gender for a second.
Love going back to the gender.
No, because I like to prove my point. If Trump and JD Vance and Vivek and Elon and all of these people now in the American government have a chainsaw, what did Kamala have? A nail file at best. And was she prepared to genuinely take personal repercussion to try and damage that tree? This is a question which we'll never have the answer to, but we can analyze as professionals, because professionals can see the future based on the past. I ask you something. If you're going to go against a tree and it's going to try to destroy you, like they tried to destroy Trump. They tried to destroy him with the Russia collusion. They tried to put him in jail. They tried to destroy his life, right? If I ask you to name men of history who have gone against their they've done things against their own personal situation, for their own personal detriment, for the good of a larger society, like the men who stayed on the Titanic, or the men who explored Antarctica and froze to death, or the men who went and died in wars. They didn't want to. It wasn't about them. It was about something larger than themselves. We can sit here and give off 1,000 examples of how many times men have taken personal damage to do the right thing for society.
Also women.
Also women. Name some. Name some. When's the last time that you can name a woman who did something that destroyed her own life for the good of larger society?
Well, I know a lot of cases in my country, in the war that we have in 1970 and 1955 against
I know a lot about that war, yeah.
UK colonialism.
Yeah.
As a lot of the times the women...
Fantastic. Good. I'm not saying that women have never done anything. That's not what I'm saying. The point I am making is, and exceptions don't disprove the rule, we have to speak in generalities. In general, men are more prepared to suffer personal detriment for the greater good. Like Trump is prepared to be threatened with jail, to have his property seized, to be told his Russia collusion, assassination attempts for the greater good.
Let's not forget that.
Let's not forget that. And in general, not all, women are not prepared to face down a man with a bullet for the greater good. If Kamala was getting shot at to fight against a tree, do you think she'd really try and chop it down?
I'm not sure if it was going to go fight.
Of course she wouldn't, because she's afraid, which is my point. If you're afraid of the tree, how can you chop it down? Women are more likely to be afraid than men. History has shown us that men are more prepared to die for an ideal than women are. I'm not saying women are useless. I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm saying in general, men will die for an idea before a woman will. A woman will be more like, I believe in the idea, but I want to save myself. They're more selfish. Would you put them in a position of power knowing that? When you have a tree to chop down and the tree is going to fight back and you know the woman's scared of the repercussion, do you want her in charge? Would Kamala have stopped the war between Israel and Gaza? Absolutely not. When the Jewish donor calls her phone and says, Kamala, it's either a bullet or it's the media or something, but you're going to be out of office if you even try. She would have pissed her little panties in her little suit and disappeared. Trump's different.
You think this is how they're threatening them with the media?
Putin said it. I'm just repeating what Putin said.
You
didn't hear what Putin said?
No.
Putin said a long time ago, I think it's when Trump was first elected, 2016. He said, I've sat through a lot of different administrations of the American government, and all these presidents come along with their fantastic ideas and they plan on doing all these amazing things. And then they get into power. And the men with the dark suits come into the room and explain that's not how things work. And nothing ever seems to change. Putin said that himself. You can look it up.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I think Putin knows the world pretty well. So here's my point.
So we agree with, you are just mentioning stuff to agree with my point about the tree.
The point I'm making, if you're going to optimize for competency in something like leading a nation, wouldn't one of those components for the competency be the fact that you are prepared to self-detriment and self-immolate for the good? Aren't kings supposed to charge into battle first? Isn't that what a leader is supposed to do at the front on his horse with his army behind him, ready to die? Isn't that a leader? I'm asking you, who's more likely to get on that horse and charge at certain death, a man or a woman? Now, we could sit here and say, oh, I believe it's equal, blah, blah, and stupid answers, when everyone knows the answer is a man. So, it is. And now this doesn't mean I hate women. This doesn't mean I hate women. It means I believe women should be protected. It means I believe women should be cared for. It means I believe women should be provided for. It means I'm actually saying that if someone breaks into my house, I will go and die to keep her alive. That's not hating women. Saying I'll die for a woman isn't hating women. But to sit there and believe that if someone breaks into this house with a gun, me and my female should have a discussion about who's actually more capable to go and engage the attacker under the guise of gender equality is bullshit. And that's what Europe's doing now, which is why it's failing. Kamala would have never fixed anything in Israel and Gaza, even though she's left, even though she's liberal, even though all her people are pro-Gaza. She wouldn't have fixed a thing, because the second she was threatened with 1% of what Trump has lived through and survived, she would have pissed her pants and vanished. So Trump is still our best chance at chopping down that tree. He's still our best chance. I agree with you. There's a very large, very strong oak tree in America. But I like to believe that he's not afraid to attempt to chop it down.
And that's why he didn't say anything publicly about this yet. Maybe they believe that they agree with our view, but that's why they were afraid to say it yet. Maybe they will do it indirectly. You are saying something like this. This is what you're saying.
I think that politics is obviously a very funny game.
Funny.
Yeah, funny. I like to believe, and I have no evidence for this, I like to believe that Trump thought talking too much about Israel and Gaza on either side is going to cause a lot of problems with the voting. I just need to win the election for now. Let me make it clear that I'm going to stop all wars and let me get the election through. If I'm too pro-Gaza, I alienate X. If I'm too pro-Israel, I alienate Y. I'm going to stop wars. I'll give a general answer and I'll get through, win the election, and then I will stop all wars everywhere. He has promised to also stop that war. I understand the Israel lobby and the Jews have a lot of power in America. I completely understand it. I also like to believe that Trump is ideologically opposed. You know the best thing about Trump? Trump is unreasonable. And the best men are unreasonable men. You know, there's this idea that men now, especially in the feminized matriarchy, which we call the European Union, that we don't hate men. They say they don't hate men. We don't hate men. We like this guy. Well, this guy acts like a fucking girl. So of course you don't hate him because he's a chick. But you hate men who act like men. So you do hate men. And men are unreasonable. Men believe X. And you can come along with Y, but we don't care. We believe X. The best thing about Trump is he's unreasonable. I said I'm going to stop all the wars. Oh yeah, but October 7th. I said I'm stopping the war. Stop it. He's unreasonable, which is what you need in a leader. Get shit done. If you're too reasonable, nothing happens. Too much talk, too much wiffle waffle, too much European Parliament. Let's all vote. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing happens. Things get done in Russia. Like him or not, things get done. We need shells because we're fighting the entire NATO sphere. Build shells. There's no sitting around. There's no voting. There's no find the transsexual, see what she thinks. None of this shit. Putin gave an order and the order will be followed. Same with my companies. Fix it. Now. Done. Money's made. So Trump is unreasonable, which makes him effective. In fact, the world has only ever been moved by unreasonable men. Reasonable men, reasonable people, go along with what the world wants them to do. Reasonable people wore a mask. Who brought this shit to an end? Me. Me getting arrested in Germany. Me and my brother going to Sweden and documenting that we lived in absolute freedom all of COVID without wearing a mask or a vaccine ever and putting it on the internet. Me getting deleted from social media for doing that. Me getting debanked. Me, I did it. I was unreasonable. Just wear a mask. It's no big deal, Andrew. Just wear one. No, I'm unreasonable and I refuse because it's a lie. Unreasonable people brought the curtain down. Reasonable people just walk straight into the abattoir. The reasonable sheep, they walk straight into having their heads chopped off. It's the unreasonable sheep trying to jump over the fence. Unreasonable men change things. Elon's unreasonable. He doesn't want to listen to your crap.
Very unreasonable.
But here's what, but let's apply this to general society now. Let's extrapolate it out. We look at how men aren't going to college anymore. Men aren't going to higher education. Well, let's talk about why. The smartest, most capable men are unreasonable, semi-autistic jerks. Those are the people who build rockets. Those are the people who build cryptocurrencies. Those are the people who program computers. Who are the most reasonable people? Pretty girls. Now, pretty girls go to school. They do everything they're told. They believe in DEI. They believe everything they're supposed to. They do pretty work that looks pretty,
DEI?
and they win.
What is DEI?
DEI is gender equality.
Oh, okay.
They do their fancy work, and they get good grades. But the best possible men can't do that. The best possible men can't go to a place and be told that men can have babies. They're like, no, they can't. Oh, right, Mama. The best possible men can't listen to this garbage. So now men don't want to even go to school anymore because it's become so feminized. They're like, I'm not going there and being told that men can have children when I know it's not true. And if I speak against it, I get disciplined and reprimanded. I just won't go. I'll just sit on Twitter behind a frog meme and print money on Solana. So now men have been completely disenfranchised with the educational system because it's lost its mind and become so feminized and insane. Unreasonable, autistic, jerk men are the men who get anything done. That's who you need as unreasonable men.
But you can be a woman and be unreasonable and get a lot.
Oh, women can be unreasonable. That's true. But I'm talking about in general.
You're talking the average, the masses. You're generalizing.
You have to, but you have to generalize.
It's interesting. Yeah. I'm just making that point that a woman could.
Well, the reason I'll say this, and you have to generalize, except
enough of gender stuff.
Sure, no problem. You asked.
Let me. First of all, I want because I am kind of an example of the democracy kind of changing.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the future world of democracy and future government system in the world and all this stuff. But before we talk about this stuff, it's a new year now. We're all putting our goals and all this stuff. So I'm in conflict on what goals should I put as a politician, what Europe needs and what I will be useful, because we only have 24 hours in the day.
Of course.
We can do only very, very few things if we put our mind to it. It needs to be very specific and limited. But I'm curious to hear what you think should be my goal. What are the problems in Europe that they need to be exposed and all this stuff? Curiosity.
I can tell you now that nearly everybody in Europe only cares about one thing. And they're tired of their nations changing demographically. This is the truth. It's not about legal migration, illegal migration. I'm brown. I'm half black, half white. So this isn't a racist point of view. I'm just telling you that everybody, whether they're black, white, brown, whatever, is concerned with the fact that their nation no longer looks like the nation they remember, that people don't speak the language that they used to speak, that their culture is falling apart, and that they're losing themselves into this this new world order global soup of various colors and brown. And they're very concerned about that. People of all nationalities, all races. And that is the thing which we can't seem to ever truly get to the bottom of. We talk about migration, illegal migration, and legal migration, all these different things. That's all actually by the by. Whether they turn up legally, illegally, etc. Of course, illegally is much worse, of course. But primarily, people in Europe are offended by and deeply concerned by the fact that England always looked like England for a very long time, and everyone spoke one language, and it was England, and now it's not. And once it's changed, it can never go back. And we're not allowed to talk about that. In fact, we're psyoped into saying that that's a good thing, and you're not allowed to be concerned about it. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. I'm just telling you what everybody is upset with. Now, America is actually a different scenario, because America is a brand new country that was formed multiculturally. But Cyprus, you're Cypriot, I believe. Cyprus had Cypriot people, and you looked a certain way, and you spoke a certain language, and you did certain things, and you had certain holidays, and certain customs, certain cultures, and you ate certain food. That was Cyprus. And now that's changing. And every single country is changing. You go to Hamburg, you don't see Germans. It's not Germany anymore. And people are very upset and concerned about that. And for some reason, no matter how you say it, you can't get the Europeans who are in charge, supposedly, in the council, to give a shit. We are being replaced. Native Europeans, which I'm not one of, by the way, I'm American. Native Europeans are being replaced. And once the replacement is complete, it will never be reversed. And everybody wants to know why that's being done.
So you are not saying it's good or bad?
Personally, well, I have my personal views.
So first, for now, you describe the situation. By the way, this is the question that you did ask me, and we are doing a research now in the European Parliament. You affected also the Europe.
Well, thank you.
Because you are the most liked comment. And everyone was upset when I announced it, because this is what you get when you have democracy. Andrew Tate always wins because he has the biggest audience.
No, it's because most people agree with me. I mean, I super respect you for being so open, and I respect you for taking on my question. Absolute respect to you. But the research you're doing is about illegal migration. That's not the concern. The concern is...
Come on, I cannot ask the question that you asked me.
Of course, this is my point.
The question that you asked me is why the native Europeans are replaced by third world. Yeah. How you can ask this to the European Parliament and for them to do a research?
Well, I understand.
So I need them to change.
You did your best. I understand you, sir. I understand you, sir. I'm just saying that most people's concern isn't the fact that they're going broke. Most people's concern in Europe, if the European people want to listen, hello, members of European Parliament, if you're watching this and you're upset by everything I've said so far, please listen to me. People's concern is that whether they are Dutch, whether they are German, whether they are Belgian, whether they are French, whether they're Italian or English, it doesn't matter. When they walk outside of their house, they're afraid because of crime. The streets are dirty, and they're surrounded by people who don't speak the same language, who don't think the same way. And they are remembering their childhood, and they feel sad and angry that their countries are being destroyed all around them and are going to look completely different in 100 years from now. You couple a failing birth rate amongst native Europeans, along with the insane birth rate of people who come from the third world, you're talking about an absolute replacement of European population in less than 100 years. Europe in 100 years will not look anything like Europe of old. It won't.
We are going to lose 50 million population in the next 30, 40 years.
Unless we import people from God knows where, which is my exact point. Europe won't be Europe anymore if all the Europeans are gone. And we're not allowed to talk about this or discuss it. Now, the solutions are varying. I'm not saying there's a solution. I'm not offering a solution. The solutions will be hard. Some are radical and insane and should never be imported. Some are just documenting the problem. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I'm telling you what everyone wants to talk about. Nobody even really cares that their bills are going up in comparison to this one central issue that nobody will ever discuss, ever. When you fix that, you'd be amazed how much you can fix by extension of that. You'd be amazed how crime will be fixed. You'd be amazed how society will
fix that. You mean make the people okay with it, or remove the problem?
Well, that's a good question. No, that's a good question, because no, you say make people okay with it. That is the current attempt, because what you're trying to do is build a homogenous society. And America does this better than Europe. And America says it doesn't matter who you are, what skin color you are, because we're all Americans and we unify behind the flag. America was built that way. So you can build a homogenous society with all these different races, all these different
cultures,
etc.
Also, they speak the same language. It's very important. This is one underlooked thing. That's why we cannot do stuff as European. We cannot be understood. We cannot have the same problems. We don't feel Europeans because we don't have mostly the same language. We have 27 different languages. So it's...
Well, you're saying making them okay with it. That's the current attempt. We have to build a homogenous society one way or another.
But every country needs to do it by itself.
Well, you need to have a society where people like one another. So you either convince everyone that changing the population is a good thing.
Love is very important.
Perfect.
Forgiveness and love.
Oh, absolutely. That's what a society should be, right? So either you convince everybody that they want to live among people which are nothing like them, or you allow people to live among people who are like them. I don't know what the answer is.
But it's very,
and I'm being careful how I answer because I'm already going to catch a Europol war and everyone understands exactly what I'm saying.
To summarize this point, it's very interesting. So it's a very good question. Do we want Turkey in the European Union? Turkey will be the biggest population probably out of the other countries. And it's 80 million people, how many they are. So when
80 million Turks in Germany or in...
No, 80 million in Turkey. Do we want 80 million people to come with free border control and all this stuff? So it will be kind of a distraction. And are we ready for this culture shock? So this is like what you are saying is not, I don't think it's controversial. Are we ready for this culture shock?
Well, it's not.
So we're just asking the question here.
Well, culture shock is one way of putting it. I would argue it's culture immolation. Are we ready for the cultures that Europe was built on to be destroyed and erased forever. Now, this is a question. Are you ready to have the culture of your country to be erased forever?
So many cultures have been erased forever
Correct.
in the history.
Correct.
So it's interesting. It's a valid question.
It's a valid question. Are you prepared for the cultures of Europe to disappear and then become a new culture under Ursula, where everyone is half Turkish or from sub-Saharan Africa or from God knows where, Bangladesh? Nobody speaks the same language. Everybody's just chasing the bag, trying to get money. Nobody loves their neighbor. Nobody celebrates Christmas. Is that what we want for Europe in the future? Or do you want to go to Italy and it feel Italian and listen to Italian people speak Italian language and eat food with too much olive oil on it for some reason and enjoy your nice boat?
Olive oil is amazing.
Okay, do you want to go to Cyprus and watch the
Also, I need
Greeks and
to
the
know
Turks
why
argue?
you have beef with Brian Johnson.
All right, we'll go to that in a second. Do you want to go to Germany and enjoy the beautiful Germans' complete lack of sense of humor? Do you want to go to France and listen to them be arrogant about champagne while their cities crumble? At least they're unique. Or do we want one big soup of God knows who from God knows where? And this is the thing that we're not allowed to discuss for some reason. That is the basis of all things. You know, it's actually interesting because when an American gets rich, and I'm talking from personal experience, I'm half American, half English. When an American gets rich, they usually move to another part of America. I've experienced this. This is just something I know. If you get rich in America, you either stay in where you got rich or you go to Miami. You go somewhere else in America. But now all the rich Europeans are just leaving Europe. They're all just going to Dubai or just going somewhere else. All the money is leaving Europe. No one's talking about the fact the tax base is disappearing. I don't know a single person with money who isn't bouncing out of Europe right now because it's a time bomb and everyone knows it's a time bomb. And what's the one thing you want when you're wealthy? Safety. And most of Europe can't even offer it. Most of Western Europe can't even offer you safety. You know what's really interesting? If you were a millionaire in Bangladesh, let's see, and there's millionaires in Bangladesh right now. If you're a millionaire in Bangladesh, you're safe because your house is protected by armed guards and you have armed guards follow you everywhere you go. If you're a millionaire in London, you can't even protect yourself.
It seems that it's the first time that UK is losing millionaires.
That's right. Because London is such a unique scenario now. England is so unique that even money can't protect you. Not only does it make you a better robbery target, but you can't hire guards with guns. And your house can't be protected 24/7. So if you have a nice big house in the countryside and they turn up with shotguns, even if you have one night watchman, he ain't gonna do anything. The police aren't armed either. Money in the UK makes you a target and it doesn't even protect you. Do you understand that money in any other country outside of Europe protects you? You could be a millionaire in Africa. You can be a millionaire in India. You can be a millionaire in Bangladesh. You can be a millionaire in Afghanistan and you're safe. But if you have money in Europe, you're a target and they can't even protect you. Who's going to protect you? The police?
How do you define safety? What do you mean they want safety? In what terms and what do you mean by safety?
I mean
safety in regulation, safety in just physical safety.
Physical safety.
Not business safety, not
well, this is a whole nother interesting argument because that's what the West does have. It will offer you, to a degree, safety and regulation in business, supposedly because there's supposed to be a rule of law. If you have a large company in Bangladesh and the president changes, you might lose your company overnight. Boom. That's true. But I'm talking about physical safety. I'm talking about the fact that it is safer to be a millionaire in Afghanistan and hire security than it is to be a millionaire in London and walk around with a watch like mine. And I walk around with 6 bodyguards, 6 of them. But they ain't got weapons. 10 dudes with machetes. It's going to be a hard day. And I'm going to have to kill some people myself. This is the life we now live in Europe. Now, when we discuss why this is, and here's the thing that's interesting. I'm half black, half white. I'm not racist. I'm just talking. When we discuss why this is, we ask people to ignore pattern recognition. If they take the last 10 people who committed a knife attack and they're black, or purple, or yellow, or orange, we're supposed to pretend we don't see that. And then you ask why people want their countries to be like the countries they remember. This isn't racism. This is, I grew up in a country where there was no purple people. And now there are purple people, and every time I see stabbings, I see purple people doing it. Why do we still allow purple people in? Why do I feel so unsafe now? Why are these green people here? This is where the racism comes from the fact we won't talk about it, because we can't discuss it as adults. And me saying that I, who lives in Romania, who has been to Iraq, I've been to 72 countries, been all around the world. I'm most on edge on Regent Street in London with 8 guys who are 7 foot tall. Talk about a shame. That's the British Empire. London should be the best city in the world. And it's collapsed. And it's fallen because we can't have honest conversations with anyone about anything. Because we're too busy talking about what tranny should be in power. And it's bullshit. People want their countries back. Not because they're racist. Because they want to feel safe again. Because they want to be able to look at their neighbor and understand that they grew up watching the same TV shows. Because they want to have a shared interest with other people. They want to feel culture and affinity. Humans are social animals. What binds people in the city of London now? Everyone's there because they have to be. Everyone's trying to collect a paycheck and paying too much rent. And everyone hates each other. Is that Europe? Is that the Europe we want? Because that's the future we have coming.
So
yesterday...
So now you are talking about your personal opinion now. You got into your personal opinion.
I'm just talking, friend. I'm saying that if Europe was democratic, which it isn't, and we can talk about the fact that they've trying to overthrow the elections in Georgia. They overthrew the elections in Romania last week.
We can talk about it.
It's not democratic. But if Europe was democratic, it would say to the Germans, hello, Germans, do you want this to stay a German nation or do you want it to be a soup of the world? And everyone would vote German nation, 95%. And then they'd make it a German nation. But they won't. Why? Who has put that tree up that they're not allowed? They can talk about decorating it. How many they let in, how quick they come, do they get a house or not, how much benefits we give them, but they're coming. You can't stop them coming. The tree's there, it can't be cut down. Who's doing that? Why? Who's in charge of these things and why?
You are saying as an advice to me to talk and understand about this problem, about the immigration problem in Europe?
The demographic problem in Europe. You need to go to European Parliament and say, hello, Germans are upset that Germany isn't German anymore. Why is it happening? Can we talk about this? Are there any solutions? You'll be the most famous politician on the planet if you just mention the problem, because you're not even allowed to mention it. You're not even allowed to mention this one, but it's the truth. I mean, I would argue, I've been to Cyprus a bunch of times. I love it. It's a beautiful place, north and south. I know all about the war, Turks, Greeks. I know all about the demilitarized zone. I've been to Nicosia, I've been there, I've seen it all. But when you go back to Cyprus, you want to feel like home, right? If you went back to Cyprus and everyone was Norwegian, speaking Norwegian, you'd be like, what? This is weird. Wouldn't you? Would Cyprus still be Cyprus if they airlifted out every single person and replaced them all with Norwegians, or would the food and language and cultures change? Would it still be Cyprus? I mean, maybe geographically on a map, but would it be Cyprus in your heart? No. So why are we doing it to every other nation, pretending we're not allowed to?
But what is our countries anyways is a story that we say to ourselves. So,
well then, yeah. I mean, you can answer, what is a country? You can say it's a geographical location on a map. You can say it's a set of legislation that applies to a certain geographical area. You can say it's...
Maybe I was going to be fine with 10% of people, foreigners, I don't know, coming into the country. Maybe maybe I will agree with your point, not to completely change and other people that they don't speak Greek and all this stuff.
Well, I'm half American, half English, living in Romania. So I'm not racist and I'm not anti-immigration. What I'm saying is, in 500 years from now, Chinese-speaking people who look Chinese will be in China talking about how Europeans destroyed themselves and that Europe used to be individual homogenous societies, which have now been completely replaced by outsiders. And the Chinese will be sitting there saying, back in the 2000s, they had this fantastic idea in the European Parliament, and someone called Ursula had this great idea, and Angela Merkel, and they come up with this crap, and now they don't look anything like they used to, and their entire culture and language and religion and point of view is all gone, and they've been replaced by God knows who, and we're still Chinese. That's what's going to happen. And they're going to talk about it in history books about how much of a fuck up it was and what a stupid idea it was. That's what China's going to do.
Hopefully it's the other way around. Where hopefully in 200 years, 300 years, we are still united in diversity. Like it's the European model.
Well,
we'll see.
I mean,
we'll see.
People think I'm being controversial with what I'm saying. I'm actually toning it down heavily because I could say a lot more. But I'm saying you're asking what Europe should discuss. This is what people want to discuss. Yeah. The next things are the obvious things. The money, but all of these things stem from that. Because the safety in the cities and the safety on the streets and the fact that people don't want to invest in the European economies anymore all stem from this one problem.
You think so?
100%.
Not the regulation of all this bullshit.
No, genuinely, if I start to make money in London, let me ask you a question. If you gave me half your salary and I invested it and doubled it, every single year, you might continue to give it to me. If you give me half your salary and I spend it on crack, you probably won't give it to me anymore because I'm spending it on drugs. So if I grow up in the city of London and I see my politicians ignoring me, and I see people living for free who aren't even English, and I see the demographic changing so I no longer feel affinity to the city and the country anymore, and then I start a business and I start to make money, and now I'm paying huge amounts of tax, and that money is going to Ukraine, but it doesn't go to the pensioners who need old age, who need heating. It's not fixing the roads, but it's blowing up roads far away in a war I'm not interested in. Will I continue to pay tax to that economy, or will I move my business to Dubai, where I don't pay any tax? Why would I give a government money when they ignore me? Why would I give a government money when everyone around me doesn't look like me anymore and it's not the country I used to know? Why am I giving England money when this isn't England? This isn't England. He's not English. The politicians ignore me. My kids aren't safe. I've been mugged twice. Ukraine's got all my money. I'm bankrupt. Why am I giving taxes to these people? How about I just bounce and move? So this is exactly why I'm saying all of the problems of Europe, the financial problems, the crime problems, the drug problems, all of these things come from the fact that nobody feels affinity to their homeland anymore because their homelands are being destroyed and we're not allowed to talk about it. You fix that, you'll fix the rest. Because let me tell you something about rich people. We're patriotic. Trump stays in America because he's American. He'll pay tax. I'm British. If England was the England I remember, if England was 2001, Oasis, pub garden, you could walk around safely at night. If England was the England I remember, I'd happily give him 50% of my money. But it's not. England's nothing like I remember. England's nothing like it used to be. England's a shadow of its former self. The politicians ignore us. They're sending our money to Ukraine. We don't even want them to. They're allowing boats of thousands of people in to destroy our country. Our little children are getting stabbed to death. Nobody's even allowed to talk about it. If I mention it on Facebook, I go to jail. Why am I giving them a penny?
I thought your answer was going to be, your advice would be something about artificial intelligence.
No.
But it's not.
No, it's not.
So you don't think one of the bigger dangers, interesting stuff of society, this is the hardcore problem of Europe.
100%.
And not a threat of artificial intelligence and all
these things. We'll talk about that.
In the future.
Demographics are the problem of Europe. That's the thing nobody wants to discuss, as I've just explained why, because that's what's eroding the tax base. Because no rich people want to be natively patriotic anymore. That's the truth. AI, it's quite interesting. I find it very interesting when Europe talks about AI. Because Europe are fucking nobodies. You ain't made me AI. Elon's made the AI. America and China are in an arms race for AI. And whichever one of those superpowers win is going to subjugate Europe and force you to use it. Europe doesn't make any AI because Europe doesn't have any companies. It does anything important because all the companies are leaving. VW shut down. I think you have 2 companies in the top 100 companies in the world or something based in Europe. And they're all leaving because of overregulation. It's kind of interesting. You know, when Europe talk about AI, it's like when you see a poor man talking about Ferraris. You're just sitting there going, a very interesting point of view. When you ain't got any. You ain't got one. So shut up. You're a brokey. AI's for Elon, for Trump, for America, for Xi, for China. But those are big boy conversations for big boy players. Europe ain't shit. So Europe can't even talk about AI.
But that's why we need to change. Is because if we lose the biggest race in the history of humanity, we're fucked.
Absolutely fucked. So how do you fix it? You inspire and foster creativity and innovation and entrepreneurship by deregulating, and you inspire patriotism and convince people to not take a bigger paycheck in Dubai or America by allowing people to have their own nations and not flooding them with freeloaders who look different to them. So they want to pay their taxes and they're interested in staying where they are and doing very good for their country because that's where they were born and they want their children to be native from that nation. That's how you fix it. Not allowed to talk about it?
2 things.
Sure.
No, these are the 2 things.
Absolutely. Deregulation and patriotism. You tell a French man we're going to remove all the regulations and the money you give to France is going to be spent on France and French people and your children are going to look French and they're going to be safe to walk around in France and you can have your baguettes and your wine and nobody's going to stab you and Paris ain't going to look like Africa. You will have French businessmen stay in Paris as opposed to doing what they currently do, which is bounce.
And I argue that it's something interesting that you're saying because now with the war, I don't know, you are from Romania and you are operating all these businesses from nowhere. So it's like the world is moving in the cloud.
And that's, you nailed it. You know what's so great? You just nailed it because you're right. This is what's even more interesting. We talk about Dubai as a tax-free hub. You just base your business in Dubai. You can base your business in Singapore, base your business in Japan. You can base your business anywhere. So let's add up some things. Europe has the most regulation. Europe is strictest on free speech. Europe is demographically changing. Why would you base your business inside of Europe when you have the most laws, the most rules? They're the easiest to make mad by having an opinion, where they'll take all your stuff and lock you up. Hello, Romania, steal all your things and put you in jail for having an opinion online. What kind of common sense individual would even base their business here, especially if they have an international business or an online company? You'll base it in Wyoming, in America. You'll base it in Abu Dhabi. You'll base it in Singapore. I have a company in all of those places. How many companies do I have in Europe? Zero, fat zero. Why? Because you fucked up. So you don't get any of my hundreds of millions. I'll give money to governments who respect entrepreneurship, who maybe listen to me, who give me representation to a degree. Or, like Dubai, where I have no representation, I believe in the competence of the leader. I have no representation, but I believe he cares about Dubai.
It's amazing what they did in 50 years. It's amazing.
Incredible. It's amazing what real leadership can do. Yes. None of this tranny shit. No one asked if he's gay. No one asked if he's a tranny. He's just a man getting the work done. This is amazing. When you put, it's true. No, but this is the point. I'll base, same with Singapore. No, but same with Singapore, right? I'll base my companies where I have faith in the leadership, because they'll say to me, base your companies in Europe because you get democracy. No, we don't. I don't get a chance to choose. We already discussed how no one can choose Ursula, so you don't get a chance to choose in Europe. So you have to just basically look at the world and go, I don't have democracy anywhere. Which leaders do I believe want their countries to win? Dubai, Singapore. I believe in those places. Do I believe that in Europe they are interested in making Europe as rich as possible, or are they interested in their stupid agendas about windmills? Windmills. So fuck Europe off. So you're completely right. We're now living in a world where a lot of people are making money online. Cryptocurrency, all these things are happening, and Europe's missing out on all of it. All of it. And they refuse to talk about it. And I really, truthfully, actually do believe if they fix a demographic problem, they could also fix that by extension. I actually, truly believe that. But yeah, regulation's a problem. And this is another problem with free speech. Why would you want to be basing your business and basing your money and putting it in banks where you can't say what you think? Now, here's the thing that's interesting. I have to be fair, because nowhere in the world has free speech. It's not just Europe. Nowhere does. Dubai hasn't got free speech. But the things I don't want to say are illegal. In Dubai, I don't want to insult the leader because he does his job. So it's illegal, but I don't want to say it so it doesn't feel illegal. The problem with Europe is the things you do want to say are illegal. You don't wake up in Europe and go, I am very unhappy with what they're doing here. But if I talk about it, I go to jail. So you have to choose in the map, understanding in the world that there's no free speech, but the best thing you can do is put yourself in a place where you do not feel the restrictions on speech, because the things you cannot say do not enter your brain. In Europe, you are gagged from saying the exact things you see with your own eyes. You walk down the streets in London and you think thoughts, and you can't say them. They are illegal. It is very tangible.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you are right. Also in Europe, we're censoring all the media of Russia, but also Russia is censoring double, triple, 10 times the media of the Western media in Russia. So it's like, but I'm curious to understand exactly where is this censorship line in Europe, because it's a bit, nobody knows, and they are censoring something that they decide to censor. So it's like, I'm trying to understand their line a long time ago now, that bit. Yeah. And this line is like,
it's a scary
very
line.
Blurry.
But
it's like, this line, this is okay, this is okay. Yeah. It's like,
You know, it's interesting because free speech doesn't exist anywhere. People say America has free speech. It probably has the most free speech, but it doesn't exist anywhere, because the way it actually works is, to be fair to Europe, it will say, you can't say this. If you do, you go to jail. What America will do is say, you can say anything you want, but you'll say things they don't like, and they'll get you on another crime. So you'll still go to jail. They'll catch you on something else.
Like they did with you.
Well, like they did with me, like they did with Trump. Like if you tell too much truth, they'll come with some other unrelated crime. They'll make it up. And then, in fact, they choose the worst crime, like they did with me, to put it all over the media to make everyone hate you.
It's very interesting. Can you talk about it? Because I heard you talking about this in the one of the previous interviews. Like when they label you with rapism, it's the end. Like you lost.
Well, that's right.
Can you say I'm not a rapist?
They don't care.
It's like, I don't care. And it's like, that's one of the things that I was very struck by. Like, all my team, most of my team was against for me to come here. And I was asking them.
Hi, team.
And I was asking them, why?
Yeah.
He's misogynist, sexist, he raped, he has allegations, all this time. I'm like, did you listen to him? No.
Yeah. No, but you just nailed it. That's the point. So the primary objective of the wrap-up smear, the primary objective is when somebody has a point of view that the government or the matrix doesn't like, what they do is they accuse them of a crime which is heinous, a negative crime, so that when you talk about that person, you do not talk about his points of views, you talk about what he is accused of, not found guilty of. Never had a trial. I've never even been to trial. In fact, my court case got thrown out before trial because there was no evidence. They didn't even have evidence of a crime, but they slandered me with it. So now when people say Andrew Tate, they don't say Andrew Tate. He says some very interesting, thought-provoking things. They say Andrew Tate, human trafficker. It's to distract the population from your actual point of view. And it works very effectively on the sheep. That's the primary objective of it. They didn't intend on finding me guilty because there's nothing to find me guilty of. Their intent is to do what they did, because before I am found guilty, they can get a prosecutor who is corrupt and tell him to make some papers. They can print papers with lies to get a judge's warrant. They can raid my house and steal all of my wealth so that I'm financially damaged. They can put me in jail preventatively. They can put me all over the media saying I've done bad things. They can indict me and charge me. They can spend 3 years printing bad things about me. And I've yet still at this point to be found guilty of any crime ever. And now people, when they hear the name Andrew Tate, only talk about human trafficking as opposed to all the interesting and insightful and important things I say, which was the primary objective in the first place, to obscure my points of view and obscure my impact that I have on people with this garbage bullshit accusation. The thing that makes me have a little bit of sadness about all of this is not what they've done to me, because men are born to suffer, and I'm pretty good at that. What makes me lose faith in humanity is that anyone believed it at all.
Suffering is the coolest thing in the world.
Great. Love jail. I miss it. I miss it. I can't wait to go back. Sooner or later for something. Ursula's going to Europol me. But I'm really saddened by humanity that they believed it. I'm like, we just got through COVID. Do you remember we're all going to die? Do you remember the put a mask on, take it off, put it on, go piss, take it off, 6 feet, let your grandma die, stay in your house? Hello. And now they're saying he's a human trafficker. You've seen no girls, no victims, no bruises, no pictures, no videos, nothing. And you're sitting there going, well, the BBC said. Some people are just born to lose, I guess. Some people are just so fucking stupid. They're going to believe whatever they're told. Here's the real red pill. Let me give you the real red pill, sir. I totally understand why the people who are really in charge of Europe are doing what they're doing. Because they have so little respect for human life, because people are so fucking dumb. I understand it. If you're in charge of something like Europe because you're born into a banking dynasty, and you've been in charge for a very long time, and you tell everyone to be afraid of the common cold, and for 4 years they're hiding from a 99.9% death rate, injecting themselves with poison, are you going to have any respect for those people? You're going to think they're idiots. You're going to think they're clowns. Of course you're going to rape the European continent for endless influence and money and let people suffer and die because you don't respect human life, because humans are fucking idiots. I completely get it. Because me, who's not in that position, looks at people wearing a mask and thinks, you're a dipshit. You deserve the slavery that's coming to you. So imagine what they think of us. When they say Andrew Tate's a human trafficker and someone sits there and goes, Andrew Tate's a human trafficker, the people in charge of the world go, well, that dickhead who believes that Andrew Tate's a human trafficker on no evidence at all deserves eternal slavery. Think I give a shit about his wages? Think I give a shit about his society and his neighborhood? Let him get stabbed. Who cares? These people are dumb. They are dumb. That's how they view us. For the same reason, a slaughterhouse owner has no sympathy for the sheep, because the sheep are stupid. They're the sheep, they're dumb. Look at them. They're eating grass, they're idiots. Come here, I'm going to kill you. You're just going to kill them because they're fucking morons. You don't respect them. That's how they view us. And I completely know they do, because that's how I view people. I'm not even in their position.
This is how you view people?
It takes one to know one.
This is how you view people?
No, I'm telling you. I'll explain it to you. I grew up in a council house. I grew up in England on public housing in a single family household. I was as broke as people get. We had no food in our house. We had no heating. I didn't have any money to the age of 25. Now I'm 38. I have hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'll tell you something. When a poor person comes up to me and they're 38 and they go, oh, I can't pay my bills. You know what I think? I think I did it. All those times I was working and you were asleep. All those times I never gave up. All those times I educated myself. How hard I was on myself. And you know what you did? You jerked off to porn and you laid in bed. I don't feel sorry for you.
So you believe in free will?
No, I believe that everyone in the world has exactly what they deserve. And this is why I am saying that I know how they think. Because imagine if me, after a short decade of being rich, looks at people who did not try and does not feel sympathy for them. Imagine you were born into a banking dynasty, how you view the plebs. Imagine how they view us. That's why they send us to wars to die. They don't give a shit about us. They're born into banking dynasties. They see us as what we are, sheep in a farm of regulation run by Ursula.
But it's not that they're bad people, it's that they're so detached from society.
Completely.
They never went to speak with normal people, they just in their bubble. So it's not that... I'm supporting my previous argument. They're just stupid, they're innocent, but they don't know better.
There's different ways to look at it.
I agree with you. You can still be mad with them because they're stupid. Well, because the damage they're doing it. They're sending the Ukrainian youth to die and the Russian youth to die.
Yeah, and people are just lapping it up. And I'm saying, let's forget about stupid. Let's put it this way. The people who are in charge do not respect us because we keep falling for their fucking stupid, obvious lies. You don't respect somebody who falls for obvious lies. You don't, I don't, nobody does. Why, if you were to go up to a random person on the street and say the sky is green, and they would look up and go, is it? Yeah, sky's green now. Okay. You wouldn't respect that person. You'd be like, well, you're a dummy. You can see it's blue. I told you it's green, you just believe me? So imagine, so when
your blue might be his...
That's the world they want. Subjectivity. But this is the point. So when they print bullshit in the media and everyone instantly believes it, they don't respect us. When they say COVID is real, be afraid, they don't respect you when you put a mask on. You are inviting your own decimation because you are acting in a way that make them despise you. We respect people who are respectable. When they say Andrew Tate's a human trafficker and you go, Andrew Tate's a human trafficker, you're just proving to the people in charge of the world that you deserve slavery because you believe anything you're told. You're an idiot. And I'm telling you, that's how I view them. So imagine how these people view them. It takes one to know one. I'm not a hero, sir. I'm an anti-hero. I'm Batman. I'm the bad guy who can fight the bad guys. I know how they think. I've been in their minds. I've been in the rooms with the mafia gangs where they talk about getting rid of the other gangs. I've been in the rooms where assassinations were planned. I know exactly how these people think, which is why I know the European Parliament inside out, despite never stepping foot in it. I know the mob when I see the mob. They're a fucking gang. And all they're interested in is power and control head to toe. I've seen this play out 1,000 different times in drug dealer territories. That's all this shit is.
Because this is very hard and pessimistic, I will tell you my idea for you to be excited. Okay, sure. Milton Friedman, you know him.
Yeah.
He's a famous economist. He said that we don't need to choose the right politicians. We need to make for the wrong politicians profitable to do the right thing.
Okay.
So now, for the first time in human history, we can organize society to do stuff with social media and all this, and to make it the right thing for the society to want it, and then it will be politically profitable for the politicians to do it. So even the bad politicians will be forced to do the right thing. So the society organized to want the right thing might be one very, that's why I'm very excited about democracy and the future of democracy, because in social media, because you can organize the masses with the truth and the right ideas to want the right thing and make it obvious for the politicians to do the right thing. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
I agree with you. I would word it differently, but I agree with you. I think the most important thing now that we have X, because Elon has effectively, along with Chris at Rumble, those two guys have saved the world. They have saved the world. Because now we can do something we could never do previously, which is shift the Overton window. What we have to do is shift the Overton window. You know, a lot of people don't understand me. And a lot of people say, why does he say the controversial things he says? And the primary objective is to make people think, not to agree with me, to think. I'll say something which might be deemed racist or misogynistic to make you think, to make you sit there and go, wait, is that even true? No, I disagree with that. Here is why I disagree. To articulate a point of view. Because the Overton window is here. We're only allowed to talk about the decorations on the Christmas tree. I want to talk about the tree. And to push the limits of the Overton window, you have to say the things you're not allowed to say. That's the reason I say the things I say. That's the reason I say them the way I say them. That's the reason I've done the things I do. To push the window over the Overton window, to eventually it gets large enough. We're not talking about the decorations, we're talking about whether there should be a tree at all. That's why I'm largely misunderstood. So you're completely correct. But what we have to do now that we have an open and free media, now with X, which is replacing legacy media, which is nothing more than a propaganda arm of the Matrix, as we just discussed, we have to push the Overton windows and get people discussing and talking about these things, talking about the fact that tax is based on patriotism. That tax is very easily avoidable with complicated tax structures, with international companies. All the rich people do it. Why would a French billionaire give France money if he hates France? If it doesn't feel like France? He will just hire an accountant and hire a lawyer and base it out of the Cook Islands. They all do. So we have to talk about these things. The European Parliament will sit down and talk about tax codes. And nobody will sit there and say that tax requires patriotism. If you want people to have a tax base, they have to love where they live. And they're going to love where they live if they love their neighbor, and they'll love their neighbor if they think the same as their neighbor. Nobody talks about these things. That's why we have to shift the Overton window. And then, you're right, when the Overton window has been shifted, when conversations are happening which they don't want us to have, when we're finally doing things we're not supposed to do, which is thinking for ourselves. When the media is saying Andrew Tate's a human trafficker, people are finally sitting there going, I don't believe you, all you do is lie. When people are starting to use their own minds, then, and only then.
It's a sign with Trump now that what we're saying is true, because the legacy media portrayed him as the evil Satan, and now he was elected with everything, the popular vote, all this stuff. So
absolutely. So then things can change. Then it will no longer be profitable to be a fake politician, or at least what the first thing we have to do, and I think this is the most important thing because we've yet to truly do it. What we have to do initially is identify which of the politicians are fake and which of the politicians don't. You know, I've always thought if Europe is democratic, I don't understand why. Maybe there is. Perhaps you can correct, maybe there is. Is there a voting history of every single politician?
In the European Parliament?
Yeah.
There is, you can
publicly
you
accessible?
can see publicly accessible, but a lot of the times they choose something to not be because we vote by raise of hand. So they manipulate whenever there are the important things that they don't want the public to know to vote by raise hand.
That's right.
So it's not all the times. A lot of the times you can.
So if it's an important thing, you vote by raise of hand, so they can lie about the vote and you can't even see who voted what. And if it's garbage, like the tinsel on the tree, it's all recorded. The first thing that should happen in a democratic place.
Accountability.
Accountability. Who is voting for what?
Transparency.
Who is voting for what? We live in the European Union. You're in the European Parliament. Nobody even knows who's voting for what.
Even if you know, nobody cares. That's a problem. Nobody cares because they lost the trust. They lost the game. European. It's
That's
like
right.
I think they spend probably millions, I don't know, maybe tens of millions so far in the European Union's history to kind of make everyone feel European and everyone explain what the institutions are doing and how it's functioning.
I'll tell you why nobody cares.
And I did more with my videos in 6 months
exactly
than the European Union did.
Because you made people understand it, and they don't want people to understand it. They just want to get feel-good words. European word, democracy, gender equality, blah,
because
blah,
all their videos
climate,
is like sucking
zero.
their dick.
Yeah, net zero, we're best. They don't want to make people understand it, and they don't want people to understand it because it's a fugazi. It's all a famoose. The thing that's interesting is this. The reason most Europeans have checked out is because the European dream currently, as it stands, Ursula, the European dream is to get as rich as possible and leave. The European dream as it stands currently is to get money and move to Dubai. I don't know a single person in London who made money who didn't move. Not one. Every single person who made money moved to Dubai, set up a company and paid no tax. Done. All of them. 100% without fail. UK is now losing more millionaires than any other country in the world. Tax base is destroyed, completely bankrupt. The European dream as it currently stands is to get rich and bounce. That's how bad the European continent's become. In fact, the second place to that is to get rich and move far into the countryside where no one can find you. To avoid all the cities and avoid all the other people and hide somewhere on a farm. That's the European dream. That's how much people have lost faith in their politicians, lost faith in their cities, and lost their national pride. You expect them to pay 50% taxes. Are you out of your mind? That's the European dream. That's the Europe you've created. And that's what you've done. You've destroyed it. It's wrecked. And it's not going to come back until people love Europe again. And they're not going to love Europe until they believe in their leaders are doing the right thing, until they stop sending money to fucking foreign wars that no one's interested in, until they start caring about people's actual concerns and discussing openly and transparently them in Parliament. That's when people are going to care again. Until then, it's wrecked. It's over.
So are you optimistic about the future of democracy? Do you even like democracy? Do you think it's the right system? By the way, guys, It's okay to question democracy. We had horses in the past, and we moved on to cars, and now planes and all this stuff. Maybe we evolved to something better. So democracy is cool. Do you like democracy?
Well, we don't have democracy because when the people vote opposite to the matrix, supposedly the Russians did it. In Georgia, in Romania, in America, as soon as they vote against Ursula, the Russians did it. So we don't have democracy anyway. As soon as the people, it's interesting.
We will talk about Romania as well.
Well, as soon as the people vote for their own interests, Putin convinced them. What kind of garbage, bullshit lie is this? As soon as the people vote for, what's good for them, the Russians made them do it. Very interesting. So you know what Russia wants?
Let's talk about this and then we'll go about the future of democracy.
It's interesting. Do you know what Russia wants? Russia wants exactly what we're doing right now. It wants a bunch of incompetent idiot leaders focused on transsexuals and windmills. That's what he wants. Instead of competent nationalists concerned with the economy and raising strong men. Russia would fear a nationalistic Europe where you had people raising strong men, joining the army, strong economies, energy efficiency, patriotism, men prepared to die for a piece of land. That's what they fear. Russia does not fear a Europe where men are hated, demonized, the army nobody joins, they have no economy, and the people who they're bringing in from the third world would never fight to protect the place. Russia, if it could control our politics, which it can't, would make us vote for the exact people currently in power, leftist psychos, which are wrecking the place. So Russia's certainly not trying to get us to put nationalists in.
Divide and rule, and we do it by ourselves, So I agree with you. This is not the biggest race issues. It's important. Gay people, I love gay people. I love even transgender people. But this is not. There is 1 million people died right now in the Ukraine war. That's a big priority.
Absolutely.
So we need to understand what is the priority of Europe and we're fighting about important things, but not the most important things that we have in front of us.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Russia and NATO are going to be adversarial. Russia tried to join NATO. No one talks about this. We didn't let them. We wanted them to be an enemy. We then encroached on their land. We then expanded to the borders of Russia. We tried to incorporate Ukraine also. NATO started the war with Russia. That's what happened, firstly.
United States provoked the war. I agree with this theory. Guys, you can go and research. Maybe we're wrong, but...
So if Europe is an enemy to Russia, and you're in charge of Russia...
No, let's explain to them, because so what we are saying is that Russia, what they want. They don't want NATO in their borders.
Yep.
So if Russia goes in Mexico and build military bases next to it, is United States going to allow it? Probably not.
Of course.
So this is what we're saying. So that they provoked it. They knew that Russia will not like this. They knew that they will have a problem with, and we still went ahead and do it.
Absolutely.
And Europe, the same thing. This is what we mean.
Completely correct. If Russia tried to build military bases in Mexico, America would not allow it, and it would fight back. And that's exactly what we did. We tried to build bases on the edge of Russia. This is the simple version.
It's two evils fighting. It's not one good and bad.
There's never good and bad in the world.
Yes.
There's never good and bad. There's always varying shades of gray. The world is complicated. But my point is simply that Russia views Europe adversarially currently. Of course it does. We're using Storm Shadow missiles from Britain to hit Russian targets inside of Russia. So Russia sees Europe as an enemy. So let's ask ourselves a pertinent question as intelligent individuals. If Russia sees Europe as an enemy, why would it be influencing elections to bring in competent nationalists, which will promote masculinity and promote patriotism, promote national pride, and promote energy efficiency inside of countries? Wouldn't they instead try and weaken their enemy by bringing in insane leftists who are only concerned with windmills and dumb shit and letting the economies collapse like Europe currently is? Isn't Russia very happy with our current leadership? Because they're all fucking imbeciles. That's what they want. They want us to sit around and die. We just talked for the last 2 hours about why Europe's collapsing. That's what Russia wants. So when they say he tried to vote in a competent
I'm not sure if it's collapsing. It's not growing as fast as it can grow.
So when we talk about Europe influencing elections and trying to bring in somebody who's going to save the nation, that doesn't even make sense because Russia doesn't want that.
Let's talk about this. So in Moldova, they did the elections and it was 51%. They chose kind of the European. Europe was fine, cool. Well, thank you. we are with you, and like. But it's an interesting question inside because we are saying it was Russian influence. So what is this Russian influence? It's one actually Moldovan guy that is an oligarch, a very rich guy that was giving pension money to the people. What we did to influence, but it was related to Russia and all this stuff. So what we did, we gave them money to build the roads and all this stuff. Still, we gave them money. So similar way. So what you consider interference and influence, we are influencing also.
Of course.
And it's like why we always label ourselves in Europe as the good ones and the bad ones. We're doing basically the same thing. So, but in Moldova it was okay, elections were good. But the same thing didn't happen in Georgia. The same thing didn't happen in Romania. So now we lost. So we say, democratic backslide, the problem with and I don't know, maybe they are right that it was some influence in Romania. We don't know 100%, but it seems also with Georgia, whatever we don't like, we labeled it as wrong elections, and they are not.
So we don't have democracy here, do we? Because what we do, as soon as it comes out with an election result that we don't like, which I've just explained isn't even Russia, we blame Russian influence. At the same time, how is the mainstream media, which is pushing European values all day, every day, not election influence? How is the mainstream media, which is nothing but pro-EU, not election interference? How is, like you just said, all the investment we put in these countries, giving them money and buying all their politicians, not election interference? It's bullshit. Influence is just a subjective word. It's garbage. What truthfully happens is, we give people two choices. They're only allowed to pick one. They pick the other one, we play the game again. That's what's really happening, so we don't even have democracy anymore. So here's the thing that's so interesting. You asked me, do I believe in democracy? Well, we don't have it. So the first thing is we don't have it. The second thing, do I believe in true democracy, the idea of purely true democracy? Yes, but then this begs questions. I can't answer these questions short because it begs questions. If I lived in a fictional nation that had true democracy, every single issue was voted on by the population. Every day we woke up and we had to tick yes or no on a bunch of issues, every single person, and true democracy was enacted. If that was the case, I would be extremely protective of my borders. I wouldn't want people coming in who think different to me. I'd now become extremely nationalistic, extremely border protective, because now if people come into my country, they can mess it up. So we have true democracy,
vote for different
and vote
things,
for garbage.
Like what happened in the United States? 20 million people came in 5 years. They are going to 5-10 years where they are going to have a citizenship.
Deeper down the rabbit hole. Here's what's even deeper down the rabbit
hole. And 20 million people, maybe 30. We don't know the numbers. It's 10% of the population of the United States.
Here's where it's deeper down the rabbit hole. If we had a true democracy, another reason I would be so protective of my borders is not because people are going to join and vote against my interests. Because if we have an open border, the people don't even have to show up. I can just start losing elections and they can lie that people have turned up because no one knows how many are there. They can then rig democracy and they can then destroy democracy and cheat by allowing people in. The point of the open border is not for them to vote because they don't vote because they're illegal immigrants and they're busy. They don't care about the country. The point is to let them in so that they can lie about the vote, rig the vote, and then tell you that they did vote when they didn't vote. The actual true red pills, these people don't even vote. They lie. So then we have to go down.
I'm not sure, but it's a good case that you're making.
So now, do I believe in true democracy for a nation that has a solid wall around it, armed by guards? Sure. Do any of those nations exist? No. So we don't have democracy anyway. And if we did, we would need borders that nobody has anyway. But the countries that do have those
even
borders,
the function of democracy, how it is, like every 5 years we vote for one person out of the 2-3 choices of the biggest parties that they came from the
tinsel on the tree, tinsel on the tree. The big three parties all agree about the tree. It's tinsel on the tree. The countries that do have borders like that are that strict, China, who are isolated, they don't have democracy anyway. So you're asking me, do I believe in democracy? It's quite interesting. However, let me ask you something. You just said Dubai, it's amazing what they did in 50 years. Do you know why they got so much done in 50 years? Because they're not arguing with each other about who should be in charge. Is democracy efficient? Does it get things done? I mean, in Dubai, he just says, do it. It's done. In the European Parliament, we have to talk about it for 3 years. And we have to decide who's going to do it. Then people are going to argue about it. We have a big discussion, blah, 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 as we lose. China's winning. China's taken over. Why? One dude, fix it, do it, done. Democracy is not efficient. So here's the thing that's really interesting. Democracy, you are suffering from inefficiency. to be replaced with. You're suffering from inefficiency so you can have representation. But if you don't have representation because democracy is not real, you're just inefficient and you're just going to lose for nothing. It's like paying for a car and never getting the car. So you're asking me
So you don't believe in democracy?
Well, I'm saying.
Not even with the correct terms that you're describing.
I'm saying if I'm going to live in an inefficient society, if I'm going to live inefficiently, I want my representation.
You believe in enlightened dictatorship.
I'm believing it if I pay for something, I want it. If I give you money, give me my chocolate bar. If I give you inefficiency, give me my representation. I believe in being fairly compensated.
If I give you my inefficiency, give me my representation. What a cool way to put it.
They're not giving me what they promised. They're lying to me. They're telling me that if I give them $100,000, they'll give me a car, and I'm giving them $100,000 and they're not giving me a car. So you're saying, do I believe in democracy? No, currently what I believe in, now that I've seen how democracy isn't real, I don't get the representation, how inefficient it is, how quickly we're collapsing, the fact that the whole world's coming here and replacing us, the fact that all the other countries are doing better than us and now outpacing us, the fact that America, UAE, Middle East, China, everyone's leaving Europe in the dust. You can look at it on paper. You can look at it in statistics and numbers. Since 2001 to now, Europe's done nothing but fail, considering that we are the bedrock of Western civilization and we have beautiful history and beautiful people who are soon going to be decimated and replaced. I'm saying no. Your democracy is garbage and we're getting nothing done. Give me a competent leader who's the boss. And this is the cycle of the world, because this is not a new train of thought. We have a king, and the king is fantastic, and people love the king, and he does a good job for the country. And then his son comes, and his son's not quite as good as the old one, but he does his best. And then the grandson comes, and the grandson is spoiled, and he's an idiot, and he does drugs, and nobody likes him. So they get rid of the king, and we bring in democracy to choose our own leader. And we do it, and we choose our own leader at the beginning, and he is chosen fairly. At the beginning, he is fair, and he does his absolute best. And then the next guy is chosen. The next guy's worried about the upcoming election, so he changed the rules a little bit so that his people can start to win. And over time, the election collapses.
No, the same guy cares about the elections, not the next guy comes.
That's right.
The same guy cares about the re-elections.
That's right. And over time, democracy
re-elections is a problem in democracy. You know, my friend, I see it in the European Parliament and it's disgusting. Most of our conversations that we have with other members is about them getting re-elected, not about this what I will do for me to get re-elected for the next 5 years. Okay, help me, come with us, help me with social media, explain me this, how I will get, so I cannot do this because I will get re-elected. So maybe if we had only one mandate and no re-election, I'm sure the world will be a better place.
Well, this is my point. So as democracy gets decadent, just like the royalty got decadent, we then enter the stage we are now, where we want to go. The world is cyclical. We had a royal family, they became trash. We got democracy, it becomes trash. And now what do we want? We want a king again. You ask any American, make Trump forever president until the day he dies. Everyone will say yes. We don't want democracy anymore. We want Trump. Trump's the king. We'd all say, yep, Trump's the king. Trump and Elon, they're the kings. We want kings back because democracy has now failed. So when you ask me, do I like democracy? It's a very interesting question because I don't see any of these nations as democratic anyway. We don't have a democracy. So all we have is brutal inefficiency. We have a circus. We have clowns. We have a waste of time. We have a waste of money. And all of it's bullshit anyway. And then when you talk about it online, they do what they did to me, which is throw me in jail to shut you up. But I'm so stupid, I keep doing it.
I would say one controversial idea here.
Sure.
Elon Musk fired 80% of Twitter.
Yep.
And it seems that it's functioning better
100%.
with 80% of the people less, which is crazy. What if, I'm just saying in a hypothetical world, just bear with me, what if we fire 80% of the bureaucrats in the EU?
Oh, nothing would change.
From 70%.
It'd be better.
So I think, okay, we're going to save, I did the math, we're going to save 5 billion every year, but
Zelensky needs it, so let's save the money.
But the biggest advantage it will be that we were not going to have all these people just for their job to regulate. Yep. So we're going to get less regulation. Yep. So as a byproduct of saving this, and okay, maybe the system will collapse as it currently is, but it needs to be some reshaped like Twitter is. But I don't think it's a very controversial idea from the inside seeing it.
No. That would fix everything. Firing 80% of bureaucrats would fix everything. But I have a different theory. I have a different appeal I'm going to make to the world. My appeal is to the American military, which has spent its time going to Middle Eastern countries where the local populations hate them and they have to deal with hostile populations and insurgencies. Instead, please invade Europe. Please invade Europe, Trump and Elon. Please invade Europe because the locals want you here. There's not going to be any insurgency. There'll be no IEDs. There'll be no local resistance, I promise. The countries of Europe cannot fight against the American might. Now that Trump and Elon is in charge, please load up the boats, get the battle cruisers. Please invade Europe and you will see cheers and crowds of people which are celebrating your arrival. Get rid of all of these insane leftist bureaucrats. Get rid of the EU government. Put us all under Trump's control and we'll be a happy place. That's what I want. I want Trump and Elon to invade Europe, take control of everything, and let them run it.
What is the next government system looks like? Do you think it will be democracy? Where the world is evolving with this, all this cryptocurrency, with all this stuff, like decentralization? Do we still have countries?
That's a really good question. That's such a good question. And that's the world we're moving to now with AI and these things that are going to come and happen. It's very interesting you say, do we even still have countries? I believe Europe's going to be left behind. I think that America, with now Doge doing what you just described, they're going to fire 80% of the government. I think Elon is not only a fantastic person, but he's in charge of the most leading industries in the world. Elon is the only person who's putting things in space. He's in charge of electric vehicles. He's the only one trying to fix traffic with his boring company. He's the only one doing all these important things.
We need to explain a bit how big this matter is because, okay, a lot of the times we talk about Elon Musk, but guys, he has his company, SpaceX, is doing 80% of the heavy lifting of the work into space. Yeah. So just a private company, we're talking about China, United States, France, all these countries, Europe together. And he's doing more in space by himself.
That's right.
Which is crazy, and that's why he's amazing.
Well, what's interesting about that is how much money NASA had for so long. But then you have to analyze these things and understand that the most inefficient use of money, and this ties into what you were saying, is government. Because government is not incentivized for efficiency. So when you move things from the government to the private sector, a private company like SpaceX that has to make money needs to become very efficient and very good at putting rockets in space as cheaply as possible without having too many staff so they can make a profit. A government doesn't make a profit. So when you have NASA and just funnel the money, they waste it all and they spend it all on trannies. I know you don't like me mentioning it, but I'm going to. So they do. They had DEI and gender equality, all this shit. You're supposed to be putting rockets in space. You talk about transsexuals, dumb shit. So the most efficient way you can actually use money is to never give it to government, because government don't care about doing anything with it. It's to give it to private companies, deregulate, make government smaller, get rid of the European Parliament,
Friedman
and
said
give it to
one
people.
very interesting idea. If you have a park, who you trust with? You trust the government, or you need the park to have an owner to be able to make it a good park?
That's right.
Always the park that has an owner will be more clean, better functioning, and all this instead of the government. But I don't know where do you draw the line on what is the work of the government, because some healthcare, some things are needed. So definitely not all these ministers and all this how we have it and all this inefficiency and all these bureaucrats, but it needs to be about some important things. But I don't know where do we draw the line.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
The line is the line's ever changing and it's difficult to draw. I completely understand it. A lot of this is ideological because leftists, people who believe the government should always give them things, don't understand economics, and they don't understand the government will always give you things worse than private individuals will give you things. They're stupid. So they think, oh, the government needs to give us everything, not understanding the government wastes all the money they're given. They have a 1% efficiency rate, whereas a person, like you said, an owner has a much higher efficiency rate. So you're right. Getting rid of all the bureaucrats is completely true. When I talk about Trump and Elon invading Europe, what I'm trying to say is just give us competent leaders who understand to reduce the size of government. I wasn't making a genuine threat against the European Parliament before I got Europol warrant. But it's interesting the situation we're in. It's very interesting what the future is, because the future is going to be AI to a degree. AI is China and America. As much as I talk anti-West, I don't like the idea of China winning the superpower. I don't think we're going to have any more freedom under a Chinese superpower than we would as an America as a superpower. There's only one superpower on earth at any one time. We talk about the West, and I talk anti-West all the time.
Well, I will argue with you on this.
Sure.
China didn't start so many wars.
No, they didn't.
So they are clever. They're very
clever foreign policy.
Clever. They get an A star in foreign policy, and
you're right. They use soft power. They don't use hard power. America uses hard power, and American foreign policy is destructive and homicidal. I agree with you. However, I am anti-Western. Typically, the way I speak, I point out the holes in democracy and the holes in this facade and this circus. And the reason I will say what I say, and the reason I want America to be the superpower, is that if I was anti-China in China, I'd be dead.
Okay.
Here they've locked me up.
Interesting.
But they haven't killed me. If I was anti-Russia,
it's not that I agree or disagree, guys. I'm pushing back.
No, if I was anti-Russia in Russia, if I was anti-Putin, I'd be dead. If I was anti-Salman in Saudi, I'd be dead. But here in Europe, they let me talk.
You're half dead.
Well, they take all my money and they put me in jail, but they haven't killed me. It's true. It's true. You're right. I'm very realistic. Assange, they could have killed him. They didn't. 12 years in Belmarsh, didn't deserve it, but they could have killed him and they didn't. So we are empathetic. So I like in the space race, in the new arms race of AI, which is America versus China. Europe has no place in it anyway. Europe are nobodies.
It would be hard to catch up.
So Europe are nobodies. Europe are left behind. Europe are going to become serfs. They're already serfs to America. Already. But now America's going to leave them behind because America's changing. And Europe isn't. The problem is, if Europe has a resurgence, if Farage gets in charge, if all these extreme, these sensible parties in Europe get in charge, they can go along with America. But America's now changing tracks. We were on the same track. America's about to change off. You're going to stay with America or you're going to be left behind. That's what's going to happen. So we're going to see. But I hope America wins.
By the way, you can understand how much shake in the European Parliament was when Trump was elected. Like, they're afraid as fuck.
They should be. Daddy's home. Daddy's home. It's like the children have been running around making a mess and now daddy's home. And you know how I know daddy's home? It's really interesting. Here in Romania, they just overthrew the elections because the Russians made people vote for somebody who actually cared about them. Funny. And then...
So you think the Russians made...
Zero. I have to be careful. I'm still in Romania. I'm going to be careful what I say. I don't want to talk about the Romanian election because they're already raiding houses for anyone who talks about it.
Okay.
A lot of people have already gone to jail for talking about it online. Democracy.
It's good that they have immunity. They cannot take me to jail as a member of the European
You're all right. But everyone's tweeting at Trump for help. Both sides of every argument now in the world. You know how you know Trump's the man? If you look at any argument, you look at any problem in the world, any dispute, Putin, Zelensky, Israel, Gaza, whatever, everyone is saying to Trump, he's not even the president yet. And everyone's saying, Trump, help us choose our team.
Also to Elon as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, Elon and Trump are the only people they want.
It's interesting thought that you're saying they're turning to them, so it shows who's
the real boss, who's the daddy.
Yes.
So now the European Parliament, who've been nothing but...
Nobody's turning to Ursula von der Leyen.
No one gives a shit about her. So no one's tweeting her. So now all the European Parliament members who've been doing nothing but try and get reelected and steal money, they realize daddy's home. Daddy's back. Hello. And they're scared. Why did they not want Trump to win? Because he's racist? Bullshit. Because then daddy is home. If you're a thief, you don't want the police in charge. You don't want the police to be good and strong when you're a thief. That's why. Now they have a competent leader in America. You know what they're really afraid of with Trump? They're afraid of exactly what's going to happen. They're afraid of Trump and Elon reducing the size of government, bringing America back to its former glory, fixing the border, making America great again, and Europeans sitting here going, wait a second. That's what a leader can do in 2 years? You've been a member of parliament for 20 years. They're afraid of the accountability that comes with their inefficiency being highlighted by competent leaders in America. That's why they didn't want Trump, because they know he's going to win. They don't want him to win because he's going to win so much that their losses are going to be highlighted like a bat signal in the sky. They're scared of Trump because when Trump starts fixing America, they're going to realize they're now expected to fix their country. And they had no intention of ever doing it if they were even capable. Most of them probably aren't even competent enough because they got there on some fucking gender garbage. That's why they're scared of Trump. If I was them, I'd be scared too.
You want to know the answer of a lot of people that I'm asking the European Parliament what you did in the last 25 years?
What?
It's not very satisfying, to be honest, that I ask them. It's like I changed this thing on this text that didn't really have a power. So it's like even the smartest people, it's like, but there is some key people out of the 720 people. There is some, 20, 30 on that they chose, were put to be responsible for the right files at the right time that had a big impact. But how they were being chosen, that they were maybe, the people that were going to write what the metrics in a way said, they wanted them to write. So it's interesting. So it's like, even from the inside, as much power is I cannot change a lot of things, legislation. So it's like, I asked them, what you did for 10 years? And it's like, nobody gave me, I'm a man of substance.
Yeah.
What the fuck you did?
Nothing.
And if they tell me, I did this.
Nothing.
Like,
They did nothing. They collected a paycheck. They collected a pension. They just sat there when they were supposed to sit there, and they did absolutely nothing. And that's why Europe's collapsing. And I hope that you have inspired, I mean, it sounds like you have. I hope you've inspired more and more politicians to be transparent. Because truthfully, when I first saw your videos, I said to Tristan, this guy's brave. I really said to Tristan, he's going to catch a case. I can't believe they're letting you make these videos. I am so impressed by you and impressed by the fact you're still here. Impressed by the fact you came to see me. You're a very brave man, sir, truthfully. And I think you're saving the world. I think you're doing something which is extremely important, which is highlighting the inefficiency.
One of the good things that if I was, first of all, I got elected independent in my country.
Beautiful.
I was elected, I'm a YouTuber, I know nothing about politics, vote for me guys and we're going to learn together. And I was the most voted person in my country in the elections. So I went to the European Parliament, also I'm independent there. So I don't have anyone to tell me what to do. And that's very important, what we were discussing. I don't have anyone to control me. Nobody paid for my elections. No. I don't have a party behind me to tell me what to do or not to do. So I have the freedom to actually do what I think is right. So it's and I think we're moving to this world because now we have influencer YouTubers, their power. Like, you cannot understand, like, in my country is like how it came with drones and the people were fighting with sticks. I was doing live stream and nobody understood what the stuff. I was cutting stuff on short form content from my podcast. I had a podcast in my country. And it was like, everyone thought, but they understand the stuff. And then I ended up having most votes than any other party in Cyprus. And it's like, fuck, this guy is so stupid in politics. He doesn't understand, which is true. But he got all these votes. So it's like, we have the power now in the world. Leyen.
We have the power. And you know what? I was the most Googled man in the world a few years ago, and I'm still pretty well known. And as much as I've spoken hyperbolically and I've tried to be, to a degree, provocative to make people think, I actually, truthfully, to all the members of the European Parliament and Ursula herself and all of these people, I actually hope they just do their job and represent the people. If I could talk to Ursula ever, which I probably never would, I'd say, hello, you obviously know something about the world because you've ended up where you are. I think it's about time now, in your twilight years on earth, for you to be remembered in the right way. And you're going to be remembered in the right way if you start actually listening to the people, caring what they actually say, and doing the right thing for the people you're deemed to represent. You can chase money, you can chase power, all of that's fleeting. God is watching us all, and we're all going to die one day. And I think that you would have a much happier afterlife knowing that you're going to be remembered as somebody who cared about their people and cared about their concerns. The concerns may make you uncomfortable. You may disagree with the concerns. You may disagree with everything I've said. It may be uncomfortable. It may be annoying the way I've said it. I may have offended you. But I'm telling you what people think. I'm telling you what they're worried about. And instead of seeing me as an enemy, all the members of the European Parliament, instead of seeing me as a bad guy, you should actually listen to me and understand why I have such a huge following. And instead do your job as a politician, a representative of the people, and undertake change which is going to affect people's lives in a positive way. That's what I think the members of the European Parliament should do.
Okay. I have the last question, but I want to say that when I came here, like, I got so many texts that don't do this, because like I am kind of, now I'm innocent, stupid, 24-year-old in the European Parliament that is associating myself with like that you have like all this kind of drama around your name. So, but I was like, fuck them. I want to talk everyone in the world, even people that they killed, even people, I want to understand what they said. Absolutely. And this is the world that I want to live, to hear the perspective of the others. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I have a mistake. But anyway, I'm very happy that I came here.
So am I.
And we need to wish, this is one of the last podcasts that you are going to do in 2024.
I think so, yes, yeah. But hopefully, let's catch up in a few years and the world will be fixed and Europe will be back and we'll be back on the stage and Trump will be in charge. Everything will be great again. We can fix it, sir. In a couple of years, we're going to be back. We can do it. Let's be positive.
Yes, Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you for listening. But I will ask you the last question I ask everyone in the podcast that I do. You are going to die in 1 minute, 30 seconds. What do you want your last words to be in this planet?
My last words on this planet is I want to be remembered as a brave person who always took the brave choice. I think that history is full of the men that did the brave thing, even if it didn't work out their way. And I think that one of the most important things you can do as a man is always take the brave option, and despite the fact it may give you personal detriment. I think that bravery echoes into eternity, and there's been millions of men who die who we don't remember their names, but the ones we remember were always doing something brave one way or another. And I think that's the most important thing you can do as a man today.
We love you all.